So how do you
Yeah, it's on.
It's like that. It's on now, yeah?
Yeah.
So that red light, what does that mean?
This red light basically means it's on.
That's
Yeah.
I see that one, right. Bismillah. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Stop, yeah? All right, good. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Okay, welcome to this talk, which actually is very important. And I only realized how important it is recently when I'm talking to one of my students. I told him that I'm planning to do this talk, and he said, you know what, Saeed? I don't think a talk like that has been done. And then he mentioned a situation he himself was in, where he was called to a house, and the patient actually is manic, very serious situation. It's dangerous, basically, causing chaos in the house. And they didn't know what to do, so they just called the Raaqi, called him, and he came over, spoke to the family, and they said, look, let's hold him down and do the ruqyah. And he said, I don't think this needs ruqyah. I don't think we should be doing ruqyah right now. So even he said, in that situation, I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know exactly what to do. So I said to him, really? You didn't know what to do? I said, it's quite easy. The reason why what you've got to do in that situation, that patient needs to go to the hospital, and you need to talk to the family and say, look, we have to work on sins. Because ruqyah at that particular moment in time is not going to work. Because ruqyah basically is a dua. If you've got sins, it doesn't work. That's what I've seen from experience. In general, it doesn't work. You've got to get rid of the sins, you see. So, yeah, I mean, so I realized this is not, this talk needs to be done, basically, because I'm thinking, you know, people already know how to do this. That's what people are doing. But when I realized my student was actually in that sort of situation, he didn't know what to do and what advice to give to the patients or the patient and the family, I realized that we need to do something here, okay? So this talk is not going to be an entertainment. We're not doing this for entertainment, jinn stories, juicy jinn stories. No, this is something serious. It's something really to help the Muslims, okay? Help your Muslim family members and friends. Help them get out of mental hospitals, departments, get them out of there and reintegrate them into the Muslim community, you see. I mean, this talk is so important. What I basically did, I've created some online notes for this, which I think some of you have got access to. So, and if you haven't got it's actually on my website. It's practical self ruqyah. That's all one word. Practical self ruqyah. And we spell ruqyah RUQYA.com. So it's all one word. Practical self ruqyah, and you will find the notes there. Muslim mental health crisis. So that's what I'm reading from there, and that's basically the lecture notes there. Right. So we want to make this as serious as possible. What I'm hoping, basically, at the end of the talk, that you can take these notes, go away from here, and then help the Muslims who are in this sort of situation, which I find now, you know, looking at the situation we're in, the mental health crisis we're in, is quite a common situation. People don't know what to do at that particular time, you know, and sometimes the people will just say, oh, it's not actually a jinn case, it's something else, it's medical. No, in reality, what it is actually a jinn case. But because the ruqya is not working, they've assumed that it must be something else then. This is not a jinn case, because the ruqya is not working, brother. Oh, the ruqya is not working because of the sins of the patient. That's why. You see, maybe even the sins of the Raaqi as well, the one who's reading. That's why the situation, you're in that particular situation, you see. You know? So reading from the document here, I said, I would like to talk about my experiences of helping Muslim patients get out of mental health departments of hospitals. So I'm reading from the introduction. Some of these mental health cases are caused by jinn, others are not. In this talk, I will explain how we can differentiate between the two. Is it jinn or not jinn? And how we can work with NHS staff to help Muslims get out of these departments. So hopefully I'm going to be teaching you a tried and tested method of helping your family member get out of hospital and get reintegrated into the Muslim community. Sadly, Muslims are going in and out of hospital because they haven't recognized the problem is jinn and sins. For some, this is too simplistic, and that's the reality really. So when I'm dealing with some patients and I say, yeah, it's fine, what's going on here? But what's going on here? And they're confused. I said, it's all right, calm down, don't worry. This situation's all right. At least we, alhamdulillah, know what it is. So the family is all distressed, you know, they're basically in despair. And sadly, some of them losing hope in Allah when they see this situation because they don't know what's going on. Because they've got this patient going in and out of the hospital, they don't know what's happening. And reality, it's quite simple. In fact, it's so simple that people reject it. So when I tell them, look, this issue is just sins, brother. First of all, let's get them stopping sins. Let's stop the sins. And then from there, you work with the medical doctors, let them give them the medication. And then from there, we'll work on the sins. And then we'll start doing a ruqya diagnosis and do the treatment afterwards. Because it's so simple, people reject it. No, it can't be like that. They don't, and that's the sad fact. They don't accept it because it sounds too simple. It's too simplistic, you see. What we need to do as a Muslim community is we need to learn how to work with NHS doctors and use ruqya to help Muslims with these mental health problems. Now, many of you, or some of you may not be aware that we do have a mental crisis here, mental health crisis in this country, amongst the Muslims and amongst even the non-Muslims. I remember even recently I was watching a program, a documentary, where maybe 100 patients are getting referred to an organization that deals with mental health situation. It was all teenagers, adolescents. Yes, I'm sure it was all teenagers. That's just the teenagers. So what about the others? Then I remember hearing cases of people wanting to commit suicide, you know, and because maybe one of the effects are social media, people seeing things on social media, getting depressed. That's the sad situation that we're in, you know. So there is, not just amongst the Muslims, but even sadly the non-Muslims as well. They've got mental health problems and people really don't know what they're doing in some situations, you see. Now, I thought I had to do this talk, especially after seeing our poor Muslim brother, Isa Suleiman, attacking a Muslim and 2 Jews in London recently, in Golders Green attack. When I saw that, I looked at that brother's situation and looked at his case, and I felt, well, looking at the behavior and all of that, because this is, you know, not to boast, but this is my field. So I can see the reactions I was looking at. That looks like a jinn case to me. And what's probably happened there, the poor brother, I'm looking at his movements and the way he was and the way the police are telling him to let go of that thing and, you know, let go of that knife. I think, and Allah knows best, that poor brother probably had ruqya done on him. You know, because the Somali community are quite aware of these things. They're quite aware, but they're not aware. I'm from the Somali community. They're not aware of the fact that sins is the problem. That's what I've seen from a lot of the Somali Raaqis. It seems that they don't realize. So they'll read ruqya on you. If they see that the jinn doesn't talk or they see there has no effect, class, this is a mental. They'll say hospital. Okay, good, you said hospital, but really this is a jinn case. What you should have done is, yes, send them to the hospital, but carry on with the ruqya and tell the family, look, we've got to stop sins. We need to stop sins. And then from there, the ruqya is going to have an effect on a patient. So what I think has happened to this poor brother is that he had ruqya from somebody. And because probably his situation with sins, Allah knows best, probably because of the situation with sins, it has not had an effect. The Raaqi has decided, no, this is not a jinn case, this is a mental health case, send him to the hospital, you see. And then that poor brother seems to be going in and out of hospital, in and out of these institutions, you see. And I say here, sadly, many Raaqis don't know the fact that ruqya on sinning Muslim doesn't work. This is because ruqya is basically a dua and is not accepted if you've got sins. That's what I said earlier. That's it. It's something which people just can't accept. And what they will say to you is that, how come, Saeed, that the Sahabi did the ruqya on the mushrik and it worked? I said, yeah, that's the Sahaba. For them, their ruqya is something different. Don't compare yourself with the Sahaba. You have to understand, they have a different iman, different level. Remember, the Sahaba didn't get ruqya reactions. So their ruqya is something different. No ruqya reactions. We get ruqya reactions. So what's going on here? They get no ruqya reactions. They get the cure, but they get no ruqya reactions. We get ruqya reactions. So their ruqya is different. And we shouldn't use that example of the mushrik that got the ruqya. I mean, saying that if this works, why can't it work with the Muslim? We've seen it from experience. It's got countless cases. The main point here that I've seen from experience, it doesn't work. And usually it doesn't work. If you've got sins, it's not going to work. So what you've got to do, you've got to work on sins. Yes, you can read ruqya on the non-Muslims. Do it. There's no problem about that. And you might find that it actually works for them. Why is that? Because Allah, for dawah reasons, Allah wants them to come to Islam. So it actually work for them. But for what we've seen from the Muslim, what we've seen when you read on Muslims, in general, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. So sadly, this case, the poor brother's case, seeing that and what happened to him, I realized it's important for me to do this talk to get this information out. And as I said, I spoke to my own students saying that, no, I didn't know it was like that. That's what you had to do. He was felt like a fish out of water when he was dealing with some sort of situation like that as well, you see. Now, myself on a weekly basis, when I'm walking down the streets and that, and I'm interacting with people, even yesterday I was at the train station, I can see there's some problems with people. You can't talk to them. I was sitting in the chair the other day. I was at the Houston station, and I got a non-Muslim, very nice, got a couple next to me here, all right? And the way a man just walked in, I can see the man is affected. Before coming to sit next to us, I can see this is not normal. I'm going to talk to them. I usually don't talk to them, to be honest. When I see somebody's ill, don't say, if they swear at me or say something, just don't say nothing. There's no need for me to say anything. I see the person's not well, just leave them alone. The way he came in, pushed them out the way and sat down. They got very upset, angry. I looked at them, so I was going to say to them, maybe don't say anything, but they did say something to him. You see, they did say something to him because they were upset here because he was rude. The way he just pushed them aside and sat down, you know, because there's something wrong with him. Leave him alone. Don't say anything to him, you see, you know. I remember I was on the train once at a tube station, on an underground tube station. And what I saw was a black man come onto the train, and he had a big afro hair, okay, let it grow out. And what he done, he broken the branches of a tree and put the branches into his hair. It's got leaves as well. So you can just imagine somebody coming like with a massive afro coming into the train like that. It looked like a reindeer or something. It looked that obviously when I saw it, that didn't look, that doesn't look good. There's an issue there, man. You could just imagine like that, coming into like that and looking around like that to the people like that. The women ran to the other side. I just stood there, just put my head down. I'm going to talk to him. That man should be in hospital. He shouldn't be walking the streets. That man needs to be in hospital. He needs help. The poor brother needs help. But sadly, I've seen that when I'm dealing with cases and when I tell to the family, I say, look, this case we need to go to the hospital to get some help. Looks like a jinn case, but we need help from the health doctors because they've got certain drugs which are going to help us with the situation against the jinn. We need these drugs from the doctors. I can't prescribe those drugs. We need the help of the psychiatrist. We need to take them to the emergency room. When we take them to the emergency room and that, they're waiting even for a few days sometimes to get the bed in the clinic or in the hospital. Why? Because too many patients. There's a lot of patients. That's how serious it is. So some patients are waiting inside the emergency department, waiting to get a bed in the mental health department because there's just too many people who are ill with these issues, you see. And sometimes it gets so bad, they just release them quite quickly. I remember dealing with one patient, how come the patient's out quickly like this? They can't handle it. So as soon as they see some sort of benefit, it looks a little bit better now. Let's see if we can get the family to release them earlier. What you've got to do in that situation, try to not agree to that. Say, look, obviously you've got to look at your family member. If you see that the family member, look, it still doesn't look right to me, can you just hold on to him a little bit longer? Don't just accept what the doctor, there might be some doctors who might want, because they don't have many beds, they might want to release him a little bit earlier than they would have. You see, but you've got to try, because of the pressure of the beds, basically. They might say, he's not that serious, we want to just release him back, let him stay at home for a few days. Try to avoid that. If you feel that you won't be able to look after that patient, let them stay in the hospital. And try to talk to the doctors in a nice, polite way, say, please, can you hold on to him, please? You see. Another example here, I remember a poor Chinese man walking backwards or walking in a strange way on the street while on my way to shopping. I said, this is not normal. So it's like in the last 5 years, I would say, after that COVID problem, there's like a spike of these things. That COVID caused a lot of problems. People stuck in their houses, not able to go to work, not able to, and then it caused a lot of problems. It caused a lot of problems. I remember one of my friends who knows a psychiatrist, he was telling me, who works in Birmingham, during that COVID, he was dealing with a lot of cases of people, mental health issues, basically. And they had basically skyrocketed, I saw a white man, that one was strange, very strange, walking backwards as we're in the friend's car, we saw the guy, he's walking backwards. It's nothing to do with exercise or something like that. You can see that the person's not well. He's dressed a strange way and he's walking backwards. Again, nobody's doing anything. This poor person needs to be in the hospital, really. Needs to be put in the hospital, really. Even inside masajid, inside the mosques as well. When I'm praying with people, when you're in the last tashahhud, when you're in that last and you're reading, I can see the way certain people are reacting in their prayer. When they're praying next to me, I can see that poor brother looks like he might have jinn. Okay, it might be something else, something to do with his nerves. But looking at the situation, I sort of say, yep, it looks like maybe the poor thing has got some, maybe a jinn issue. How do I know this? Because I had that myself. I remember when I had jinn, and I'm praying like that, I'll be shaking a little bit in my salah. So when I look at patients and they've got the same sort of reaction, that patient's got the same situation I was in there, Sad. So it's quite a lot out there. And I do get a lot of strange looks from patients and that, because they probably know that I'm in this field. So I recognize that you've got a problem. They look at me in a strange way as well, subhanAllah. Yeah. And sometimes they actually do get aggressive. I remember I was doing my adhkar in one of the mosque in London. Just after Fajr, I'm just doing that. And then it just starts, what are you doing, brother? This is out of the blue. It's out of context. I mean, I've not done anything to him, you see? So I just ignored him. And then I saw that same brother giving a problem to a sister in a chemist, screaming and shouting. And I walk in, I said, sister, did that brother abuse you? And I said, yes, he did. Ignore him. He did the same thing that to me in the message. Just ignore him. Just leave him alone. And then that same brother again, I saw him in another mosque. One brother's trying to get away, and I said, "What are you doing? You had a problem with that brother?" Yeah. I said, "Okay, well done, good. That's what I actually did. Try just keep away, keep quiet. Don't say anything to him. Don't reply. There's no need to say anything to him. Just leave him alone. He starts telling you about certain things are haram or something like this. Just leave him alone. Don't get into that kind of an argument. You see." Okay, let's move on to the disclaimer here for this talk. Okay, none of the information that I will share with you about the jinn world has been obtained from speaking to the jinn or getting the help from the jinn. No, we didn't do that. We don't talk to the jinn. I don't need to talk to the jinn to find out what's going on in their world or what you've got. You've got sihr, who done the sihr, who gave you the ayn. I can get all that information from doing ruqya diagnosis. I don't need to speak to jinn to get that information. This is actually shirk. As Sheikh Fawzan says in his little clip, I put it on one of my notes here, in one of my articles, the problems of jinn catching. And in there's a fatwa from the shuyukh, you'll see it there. One of them is from Sheikh Fawzan saying that you can't be getting information who's done the sihr and that. No, we don't do this. It's all shirk. You have to be careful. Sadly, a lot of Muslims as well who are in this field of ruqya, they don't know that they should be speaking to these jinns to get this information. We can work out who the sahir is, where the ta'weed is, all of this information, just doing the ruqya diagnosis. Use the correct intention, read that, and you get reactions, and you know that is from whatever. You don't need to talk to jinn to get this information. You're going to fall into shirk doing this. This is how actually sadly it starts. People end up being a sahib because of this and using the jinn, thinking that they're using Muslim jinn. In reality, they're not using Muslim jinn. So all of the information I'm going to be presenting to you, and it's going to be a lot. Some of you are going to be shocked with the information, okay? Especially when we come to this type of spiritual diseases. I mean, when we go down there and look at that, you might be surprised at this. So where do you get this information from? Well, Ruqya diagnosis. Getting this Ruqya diagnosis. That's how we got this information. We didn't get it from talking to the jinn, you see, and specific Ruqya diagnosis. You do not need to do this. You don't need to speak to the jinn to find out about their world. We can do it by Ruqya diagnosis. And one of the reasons why this is why we do this, you have to remember now, in the time of the Sahaba, they had the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and even their firasa, they will get all this information. They will know these things about the unseen world. They don't need Ruqya reactions. But in our case, we're so far away from the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Allah has given us Ruqya reactions to find out when we're cured and when you've got something. How do we know you got something? Well, read the Ruqya and so you're reacting. There's an issue here. You shouldn't be reacting to Ruqya. You should be reacting to the Quran. The very fact that you're reacting to the Quran, there is a problem there. You see? There's a problem there. How are we going to know you're cured? Well, one of the ways we know you're cured is when you don't react to Ruqya anymore. You see, when you don't react to the Ruqya, that's our sign that you're cured. You see? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us with the Ruqya reactions. So we can know about Iblis and his army and what they're doing to us. And in these last days, and well, you know, we're so far away from the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that he gives us also true dreams. We have true dreams. These are the way the scholars say the true dreams is one of the ways to help us in this situation, far away from the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Man, remember, they almost got to deal with Dajjal, and that's not even come yet. So how's Allah going to help us with this sort of situation when we're dealing with these things? It's going to be through true dreams. Maybe people see dreams. That's the dream. Oh, he seems like a good person, that person. Maybe he's actually sihr on the people. And people feel, you know, I've got this love in my heart for this man. What is this? And then maybe you'll have dreams, because maybe the person's got sihr. They haven't understood that they got sihr from maybe Iblis or Dajjal actually doing sihr on you and making you think, I feel this man is a good man. And maybe Allah will give you a dream, true dream, that you see the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying, no, this is the Dajjal that I talk about in the hadith. Maybe you'll see Allah will guide you through the dreams. You see, remember, we're dealing with that. We don't have a prophet with us to deal with that situation. You see, you know? And every prophet talked about him, you know, Dajjal. So again, let's reiterate that point. No talking to the jinn to get any of this information or seeking their help. Okay, the next point here. I do not believe in seeking the help of the jinn, and I avoid even speaking to them. If the jinni does manifest in a patient and start speaking, I basically stop the ruqya and advise the jinni to get out and embrace Islam, and then I tell the patient to stop sinning. That's what I do. So when I start having these cases, the jinni is talking and stuff like that, all right, stop the ruqya. Okay, we're stopping the ruqya. All right. Okay, jinni, you need to get out, embrace Islam, get out. I don't want to talk to you. That's it. That's the end of that. No speaking to. Why am I doing this? I'm scared for myself. I might end up seeking this jinn's help and stuff. I don't have to do this. I've told him a little bit, gave him some advice, embrace Islam. Most of the jinns who are inside people, they know about Islam anyway. They'll read the Quran to you. They'll read Quran back to you. They'll tell you about the jinn. They don't know about these things. You think they don't know anything about this? So you can tell them, look, you can just give them the simple basic information. Embrace Islam, you know about Allah, fear Allah, embrace Islam, get out of this patient. That's enough. You don't have to worry about, you know, this dialogue you have to kind of convince them like you're giving dowry in Hyde Park Corner to the non-Muslims. No, you don't need to do this. The jinn, they know they're inside the patient. They're reading the patient's mind. They know the patient is praying to Allah. They see these things. They know about Islam. There's no need for you to do this. All you need to do is just say, look, fear Allah. You know about Islam. Get out of this patient. There's no need for you to go into this kind of dialogue with this patient, you see. You know? Yeah, so that's what I basically do. Stop the ruqya, and I just basically tell the patient about the stop sinning. This jinn is manifested speaking, you need to stop sinning. And what we mean by the sins here are the major sins, zina, alcohol, lying, major sins, okay? Right? And also continuously doing the same minor sins, like listening to music, things like this. They do keep shaving the beard, doing these things, minor sin. You keep doing it, or the minor sin you keep doing is become major sin. That's going to be a problem. There's going to be a problem, you see. And then that jinn is going to get the power over you. Because the low iman, the jinn has the power to take over and start talking in that, you see. So again, sadly, many people, they don't know this fact that we shouldn't be speaking to the jinn, and we shouldn't be trying to get information from the jinn. Leave it alone. We don't need the jinn. Leave the jinn alone. You see, I remember once somebody arranged ruqya for me. I didn't want to go, but they arranged it for me. So, okay, I'm going to go. I went to the ruqya, and the Raaqi is reading on me, and this Raaqi wants to talk to the jinn. And I didn't know anything about this talking to the jinn, and it's not good for the jinn to talk. So I come out of that ruqya session, he's trying to read, talk. It's not talking. So then I come out there depressed. They didn't talk. So I don't know what my situation is, you know. And the Raaqi he's upset with me as well. I'm saying, why is he upset with me? I didn't do anything. So anything's not talking. So maybe he's thinking that I did something wrong. I'm not letting it speak or something like this. Maybe he's thinking this because I'm thinking that. Why was he so abrupt to me and rude to me afterwards? Khalas, and all right, come on, you know, the way he's speaking to me. And I didn't do anything. It's not my fault if we didn't speak, you know. So he wanted the jinn actually to speak and tell him things. That's how he's going to do his diagnosis now. Only afterwards I realized, hey, it's got nothing to do with you shouldn't be getting information like that, number one, it's shirk. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that I've done something wrong. It's just that, alhamdulillah, Allah helped me it's all from Allah, Allah helped me from falling into major sins. So it's a good thing the jinn didn't speak. After I got that information, I realized, okay, that's why. It's a good thing actually the jinn didn't speak, alhamdulillah. Okay, let's move on to the next bit here. Defining spiritual diseases. Right. It is essential that you define what you are actually treating. If you don't know what you are treating, then how will you know that you have actually treated it? Makes sense, doesn't it? How can you, do you know what you're doing? I don't know. Many people, I go to some people, say, what are you doing, bro? Yeah, I'm reading, looking at myself. So what's happening? Yeah, I'm reacting, bro. Okay, so what then? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Are you cured yet? I don't know, brother. I'm just reading. I said, well, do you know what you've got? I said, no, I don't know what I've got. Is it sihr? I don't know. Is it jinn? I don't know. Is it ayn? I don't know. Is it hasad? I don't know. So what have you been told to do? Just read. I've just been told to do the treatment. Okay, I said to him, no, brother, look. You need to know what you've got, because once you know what you've got, then you can do better treatment. If this is ayn, then we could go try to work out who's giving you the ayn. Let's get their water and wash with it. We could do better treatment. Once we know that you've got sihr, then we're going to try to maybe find the ta'weed. We find out where that is, break that. Maybe you get the cure through this. So who said to you you shouldn't do diagnosis? Because that's how some Raaqi sadly they teach this. Just do ruqya and you'll be fine. I have to be honest, that is not for us. We need to work out what's going on. That's for the Sahaba, they will get that very quick, get the cure in general. But for us, we find that people when they read, look, I did this myself, years teaching, suffering for years. People just told me just read ruqya. Suffering, just read. I remember I did 4 hours once, sitting in the sitting room in a lounge, 4 hours of ruqya in Surah Falaq, and that's just a bit of water with me, just drinking, and reading 4 hours. 12 midday to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just reading. You know, when I had traveled, so I was in a place where I didn't have to pray dhuhr. So I said, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do dhuhr and asr at asr's time. I'm just going to spend time doing ruqya. And that's what I did. 4 hours, but did it make a difference? No. You know, so look, it seems confusing, you see. So sadly, some people are doing things, they just do treatment and they don't just keep going around in circles. And they don't understand, look, bro, the very fact that you're getting reactions means there's a problem there. There's an issue there, you're not cured yet. You're not cured yet, you know. You need to find out what you got so you can do better treatment. Okay? And the other thing is, how can you know when you're cured from what you're suffering from? If you haven't done a diagnosis, when do you know it's gone? Yeah, so you're going to go around in circles, you see. Doctors try to diagnose, so Raaqis must also try to diagnose so we can do better treatments. You know, it's not a very difficult rule, is it really? You know, once you, like I said, once you know that you've got ayn, let's look for the ayn water. Let's get this ayn perpetrator. Okay, we get that. And once you've got sihr, let's try and do something with the sihr, you see. Sadly, Muslims are doing ruqya treatment without understanding what they are treating. Sadly, for some, there is no attempt to work out what the spiritual disease they have. How will you know when you're cured? You won't even know. He doesn't know, you know. So subhanAllah, help us, you know, and I hope these Muslims will do this, you know. Okay, so let's basically, a very I can't even say it now. Basically, a very simple definition of spiritual disease is that a spiritual disease is anything that Allah makes react to ruqya. That's just a general, there's actually a longer version of this. There's a longer version of this, but this is just a layman's understanding here. We'll just go by that. If Allah makes the thing react, it's a spiritual disease. That's what you know. Okay, it's a spiritual disease. And you know what? The list is quite long. We've only identified isolated 25 of them. The last one we identified was the Sufi sihr. Something what the Sufis do. Something we've recently found this out. Let's say about 6 months ago we realized this. The Sufis have their own sihr. Now I thought there was only 3 types of sihr. The sihr which was mentioned in the Quran, which we know about. Okay. Then you got this what I call Kabal sihr, which is like elite sihr. Iblis and those elite sahirs, they would use this. Why did they use that one? Because they know the Raaqis, they already know about the normal sihr, which everybody had, which happened at the time of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They know about that. So they read for that one, oh, you've got no sihr. But yeah, he's got sihr, but he's got the Kabal sihr, a bit different. There's difference, the elite sihr. This is what the Illuminati, what you want to call Freemasons, these kind of people are using this one. They're using this one on you. And the jinns and the Iblis, they're using this Kabal sihr. That's what we called it. We didn't want to always call it elite sihr. Now let's think of another name, because we had to give it a name. So we have to call it Kabal sihr. I thought it was just 2. Next thing we know, not long ago, we realized, hey, it's Sufi sihr. And what that seems to be happening there, something Iblis created with the Sufis, these Sufi sheikhs. Now, the worst type of sahib, maybe some of you don't know, the worst type of sahib I've dealt with, the Sufi ones. The Sufi ones. Why are they so bad? They think they're doing karama. They think they're doing karama and this thing with the jinn, they're getting help from the jinn. They're doing sihr on people they don't even know. They think they're doing karama and they're actually doing good. So some of them are confused, they don't know. But the worst type of sihr I've dealt with are the Sufi ones. And they have a special type of sihr Iblis has made for them, developed for them. That's what they've got. And they use it on their followers to make them fall in love with them, to make them follow them. And then they don't want to look at anybody else. When you try to give them some dalil and that, they're not listening to you. They just focus on this is it. And you can tell that sometimes the crazy stuff they're getting up to. You tell them, I've got sadly friends who became Sufis. You know, who became Sufis, you see? Who were, if you could say Salafi, Athari, they were Salafi, but they became Sufi because of the harshness from some Salafis they got. They became Sufis. He said, my heart's not happy inside. And then so they became Sufis because of some of the harshness they had from some of the Salafi brothers. So they became Sufis. And then when I tried to give them some dawah and stuff, look, why are you following this? This is not right. They're not listening to me. Maybe those friends of mine actually had this Sufi sihr in them. They had this Sufi sihr and make them get attached to these sheikhs, you see. You know? So here's a list of some of the things that we identified from our ruqya diagnosis. So when we're dealing with patients, I don't want to go to long story, but we basically, when you do the diagnosis, you find, oh, I'll show this person got sihr. No sihr there. What is this? Oh, I'll show this. Any spiritual disease? Reactions. Okay, there's something there. Oh, I'll show this is something new that I've never come across before. Reactions. Oh, okay, this is something new. Oh, I'll show this is a type of sihr. Reaction. That's how we discovered the Kabal sihr. And you go on, it's same thing with all the other things which I've got here. One of the things I would just like to point out here, we want to focus really on 6 and 7, but devices, that's something which I need to talk about. Devices. Now, the jinns have got like little machines. And sometimes when you put these little machines, I think Ibn Taymiyyah Rahimahullah talked about this, one of his essays, I think the essay origin I read there. He saw one person talking about, we've got like some kind of mirror or something where we can see what other people are doing and things. So they've got these little machines and things, and they use this against us. Sometimes they will throw these things on you, it goes inside you, it gives you waswas, it's got no jinn. Why do they do these things? Well, why they do these things is to avoid the ruqya. So once you think that it's got a jinn case and that like that, or you think it's a sihr and something like this, and it's maybe a sihr of tafriq to separate the husband from the wife, what they do, the jinn, they will, okay, he's realized he's got sihr, he's doing ruqya for sihr. Okay, what are we going to do then? We need to break this marriage. Just give him devices. And so they just give you devices. And you're not picking up the ruqya, you're just reading for sihr. Hey, look, no reactions, nothing for sihr. So I haven't got sihr no more. Maybe there's something else there. Because you didn't check, they gave you these devices. The reason they gave you this, because they know that you're not going to pick it up. You're going to not do the ruqya for it. So the devices are inside you, give you waswas. Next thing you end up divorcing your wife because, I don't feel love for her now. It's not sihr because I'm not getting reactions for sihr anymore. So therefore, it must be something else. But you've not done the work. You've not done the ruqya to identify what it is. You see. So in today's talk, we are interested in 6 and 7. So if you look at 6 and 7 in that list, absolute jinn possession or complete jinni. So what I mean by the absolute jinn possession, the jinn is fully inside you. You've got a jinn. You're dealing with a jinn. The jinn now, the jinn possession for that sort of situation will be three things. Either the jinn will be totally inside you, totally inside, the whole body of the jinn is inside you, inside your body, or what it will be is that the jinn will be halfway in, halfway out, sort of thing. Like, so you've got the jinn, imagine the jinn is fully inside you. You've got the jinn which is fully inside you. Another what could happen is that the jinn is halfway in and halfway out like that. Okay, and the other version we've come across is it's on your surface of your body like that. It's not inside, it's just like on the surface there. These are three. Now, why did the jinn run around doing these sort of things? Well, again, once this jinn's inside, he knows you're going to be doing ruqya. What they do to avoid the ruqya, what it will do, it will just go here. You've made your niyyah. What's your niyyah? I want to kill all the jinn possessing this person. Your definition of jinn possession, and that's why I'm bringing this up here, it's important to have defined things. You've got to define things properly. Because your definition of jinn possession is only jinn fully inside, when the patient reads the ruqya, when the patient reads the ruqya or the Raaqi reads the ruqya, he can't pick this jinn up. Why? Because ruqya is not hitting it. Now you might ask the question, okay, why doesn't Allah just allow this to get affected? Well, this is it. This experience. We realize that Allah wants you to know what's going on. That's the whole point of the ruqya reactions in the first place. Allah wants you to do ruqya diagnosis to find out what's going on in this world. So you have to realize, okay, the jinn are playing games, they're avoiding the ruqya, they're doing this, or they're doing this on the surface. They've come out and they do this to avoid the ruqya. So you've got to make your ruqya broad and cover those situations. So you've got the right intentions to cover this situation. So you pick up all of the jinn, basically. Okay? So that's basically what I mean by the absolute jinn possession. The partial jinn possession or jinn parts is sometimes the jinns basically cut themselves up and they'll throw it into some patients. They'll find a dead jinn and they'll cut it up and they'll throw that into the patient. How do we know this? Again, from ruqya diagnosis. Not speaking to jinn. We find the person's got jinn, you've got jinn. Is it live jinn? Not live jinn. It's not live jinn. The person will react to that. What is it? Is this the person got some dead jinn in him? Got dead jinn in him, but he's got dead jinn parts. The jinn have cut things up and put this dead jinn inside the patient. You see. Yeah, this is what there are probably many Muslims in hospitals and outside of hospitals that haven't been diagnosed with jinn possession because the Raaqi who diagnosed them with no jinn possession. So imagine the Raaqi is diagnosed with no jinn possession, only defines jinn possession as jinn fully in the body or fully inside the body. That's the problem. So they were saying that it's okay, this person has got jinn possession. When in reality, what's happened, the jinn was fully inside before the Raaqi came. He was fully inside. But when the Raaqi is coming in here, they'll find out, you think, what's the ruqya? You just go here. And the ruqya doesn't pick it up. Yeah, ruqya doesn't pick it up. You know, you just go there and it goes halfway out of the body and the patient's not picked it up with that. Yeah. And then we've got the other point here. On top of that, if you don't include the other spiritual diseases in your diagnosis, then you might miss out on the devices and objects that the jinn use against humans, because the jinns are using things. They use their weapons, sometimes weapons. They've got like weapons they'll use against you. And I had one patient got hit by something. Okay, you can't see it, but you get hit by something, and they use devices, which, like I said, like little computers, which they use against you. You see, yeah. Next point we're going to talk about here: major breakthrough in treating non-spiritual diseases. Okay, so there's been a major breakthrough in the last few weeks. Recently, I've been treating some of my non-spiritual diseases. I was only able to do this because defining accurately what a spiritual disease is, all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, when I first got my illness from spiritual diseases, back about a long time ago, and I got cured from that, I had some other issues, and I couldn't really get rid of them with the ruqya. So the ruqya wasn't, the ruqya dealt with the spiritual disease, but it wasn't dealing with the non-spiritual diseases. And I had some problem with my skin, itchy skin. I couldn't really deal with the situation. But only recently, because alhamdulillah, we've defined now what spiritual diseases are properly, I can use that definition to define what non-spiritual diseases are. So when I did that, and I read ruqya, oh Allah, cure me from the non-spiritual diseases that I got, which are all the other diseases except spiritual diseases. When I did the ruqya like that, with that intention, I got much better. I said, hey, and eventually after doing ruqya for some time, for a few days, the itch has gone. Basically, I don't have the same itch as I had for 30 years. I was having this problem. It was like an internal itch that I couldn't get rid of. Very sad, taking antihistamine and stuff like this. And I just left it. I mean, the ruqya which I was doing, the ruqya for the spiritual disease worked well, but I couldn't understand how we're going to get the ruqya to work for a non-spiritual disease well. That's all dependent on your definitions. That's why I'm talking about definitions and why it's important. You've got to know what you're dealing with. Once you know what you define things properly, then the treatment works properly, you see. Okay, if you look at them, I've got a definition of non-spiritual diseases. Non-ST, so what I mean by I'm not saying non-spiritual disease, okay, something other than the spiritual diseases. It's basically any disease except the spiritual diseases. What I've got there is a current definition of spiritual disease, which is not here, but I've got it on part of my website, longer definition. But that's what it basically is. Basic level of it, what it means is a spiritual disease is all the other diseases except spiritual diseases. That's the best way of defining it. And when you look at doctors and that, when you look at what the doctors and some of the clinicians, psychologists, doctors in their field, they have problems defining what a disease actually. They've got difference of opinion amongst themselves when I was looking at that, And maybe me using those definitions, maybe that's why I wasn't getting cured. From when I used this ruqya against my skin problem, I just called it whatever the doctor called it. What is it, doctor? It's this. And then I used that in my intention. I want to cure me from this, but it wasn't good enough. Not good enough. But when I didn't use that intention and one used this intention, alhamdulillah, got better results, you see. So the doctors themselves, they're not very clear on what a disease and a condition. They've got a difference of opinion amongst them. There's no consensus. When you look at it, there's no consensus. What a condition is, a syndrome, disorder, disease. They've got a difference amongst themselves, you see. So I think the better way for us to define it, these diseases which the doctors deal with, let's define them using the definition of spiritual diseases. So we say a non-spiritual disease, any disease is any disease except the spiritual diseases. You do it like that, it's much better, I believe. You see, well, I've seen it in myself, reality, that it's worked for me, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. There you go. The reason I mentioned this is for you to appreciate the importance of defining a disease before you actually start treating it with ruqya treatment or with other treatments. Yeah, it's important. I'm a clear example of my 30 years of suffering from that skin problem, itchy problem, like an internal itch, antihistamine, hydrocortisone cream, other steroids, not working, doesn't work. And when you look at it, I can't see the problem. It's something like it's coming from the inside. It's strange, you see. Even when I went to a consultant dermatologist in Qatar, when I was there, he didn't really even know what it was. And he giving me things, but I said, why is this working for? All they can give you is something to just keep it at bay, under control, you see. But it doesn't give you something which is going to get rid of it, you see. Okay, so I hope you understand why it is important to define things in ruqya. If you don't define it properly, you don't know what you're doing. The ruqya is not going to work. So if you ever see people doing ruqya on themselves, ask them, what's your intention? What's your niyyah? Okay, what's your definition of these things? And what you read, what you treating? You've got to ask them these questions. If they don't know, then that's why the ruqya maybe is not effective, because they don't really not define what things are, define what the spiritual diseases are. That's why they're having a problem, you see. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Jinn possession symptoms before hospitalization. Before going to the hospital, before we get them going into the hospital, can you actually notice some things with the character, the person? Maybe you'll see something, how the person is behaving. Then maybe you can give them some advice, Okay, the first point here, strange and unusual behavior, but the jinn hasn't completely manifested yet. So you got the person is behaving strange, funny, weird, doesn't look right. That's not my brother. He's doing some strange things. I remember seeing one patient. I opened the door. I'm in the house, and I go to see that patient, and he's walking up and down. So I looked at him for a bit. Subhanallah. And then he looks up to us. Oh, hello, Saeed. Goes back to doing it. So you see them doing strange things like that. In that sort of situation, they're still sort of there with you. Because look, he recognized me, and when he said it to me, it sounded like it was the person. You see, it was the patient. So you, in that sort of situation, you've got to nip it in the bud and start giving the dawah. Look, brother, look, you've got to start. Are you praying 5 times a day? You keep away from sins. That's what you've got to talk about. Sadly, many Muslims don't think that these little sins that they're doing, listening to music, looking at something haram, it doesn't have an effect. It has an effect on you. It's going to have an effect on you. They'll pile up. The sins will pile up in the end, and it's going to cause problems for you. You've got to stop it right now. So a lot of the patients as well, the families, they don't see it as a problem that the patient is listening to music. It's only music. We've got to let him do something. Don't let him listen to music. Stop that. Big problem. Don't let him do that, you see. So we've got to get to them, and these are the symptoms you will see before the jinn starts causing chaos and havoc in the house. When you see these sort of signs, that's when you've got to give that in the siha and tell them, look, the advice, stop sinning. Get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, So overall, the patient still seems to be normal, but there is something strange about them. The following is a list of some of the strange behavior I've seen and dealt with, or others have said to me. So we've got a list. Let's start with number 1A here. They keep themselves away from family and friends. They may say that they are too pious for them, or they may say that you are too sinful, weak for them to be with you. So they might say that to you. Okay, they might say that you're too pious, so they don't want to hang around with you. They might say that they're weak, they don't want to be around you. Okay, or the other way around. You see, and they keep themselves. No, brother, you're too pious. I can't, deal with you. I had one patient saying that to me once. That's why I kept away from you. So what happened to that patient? Actually relapsed. So he was following the plan what I told him to do, and he did. He got out of the hospital. He's out. But what happened to him? When you sort of lose contact, and they don't keep up with the things you tell them to do, which is quite simple. It's really not something very difficult. You know what it is? Do your morning even adhkar and keep away from sins. We're going to all sins. I'm a sinner. But it's just a general rule. Morning even adhkar. You've come out of the hospital now. Look, you're better now. Jinn's not speaking. You don't have anything. Yeah, carry on with the medication that you got into the doctors. Let the doctors, they'll tell you, they'll stop the medication for you. No problem. All you need to do Islamically, keep away from sins. And that means meaning you don't do the major sins and don't continuously do the same minor sins like listening to music, okay, or trimming your beard and things like this, shaving your beard, you see. And do your morning even adhkar class. That's all it is. That patient sadly didn't keep up with that. So then he starts keeping away from me and said, no, I just started keeping away from you, didn't contact you. So I was wondering why you're keeping away from me. Next thing you know, he's relapsed and he's got the same problem again. You see? But the good thing is, if you follow the same program again, make tawbah, come back close to Allah, it will work again. Doing this same thing, keeping away from sins, it works. It works. Alhamdulillah. It's not like it doesn't work. It will work. If you follow with the plan, it will work for you. Okay? Another point here, number B here, they start being more secretive. Okay? They'll keep things to themselves. You find that they maybe talking on the phone quietly amongst themselves. They do things in secret. And sometimes you'll come across them. I didn't know you were there. They'll behave like that sometimes, you see, because they're doing things secret on the phone, talking to people or something like this, you see. When you see them doing things like that, you say, this doesn't look right. This is not our normal, this little strange behavior. It's like you can sort of see them as like a semi-psychotic sort of state. It's not fully psychosis where they've got the genius manifesting and speaking of that, but they're slowly going towards that. This is where you've got, like I said, this is where you've got to nip it in the bud, stop it before it gets that serious. And then C here, sleeping during the day and staying up all night. That's one of the signs. All day, sleeping during the day, and it's difficult for them to get out of the bed. They find it extremely difficult to get up. They get up, They can't get up. Very difficult. They'll say to you, legs are heavy. I just can't move the legs, But when the Maghrib comes in, they've got all the energy they're doing. They can do things, you see. They can do things, you see. So that's another sign. When you see the person is sleeping too much during the daytime, okay, and staying up all night, you see. Keep number D here, keeping the curtains drawn during the day and prefer to stay in the dark. So the curtains are drawn. So it looks like it's nighttime when you go into that room. It looks like it's nighttime, and they prefer to stay in the dark. They like the darkness. They don't want to be out in the light. Taking a long time in the toilet. E here. Taking a long time in the toilet and using their phone while they defecate. Sadly, So they'll be in the toilet and they've got their phone in there, scrolling and do whatever as they're on the toilet. doing a number 2, basically. And that's very sad. They shouldn't be doing this. And you see them doing this is not right. Are you in there still? Get them out of that toilet. Get them out. And sometimes what they do, they go into some sort of like daze or something like that. They lose track of time and stuff like how long they've been in there. So you've got to keep attached and knock on the door and say, what's going on? How come you've been that long in there? That's one of the signs. You've got to keep a track of them. You see? And just remember another case. If you do find the patient is getting some of these symptoms and you see that they're spending a long time in the toilet, I would knock on the door and tell them maybe like, keep that door open, man. Don't lock it, because you might have to go in there. We had one patient when she came out and told me afterwards, yeah, you know what? I was thinking of committing suicide in there. And that's why they were taking a long time sitting like in the toilet. They want to commit suicide. So you've got to keep aware. If you see somebody spending too long in that toilet, and you've already seen some sort of strange behavior, once they go to the toilet, be aware of them. Keep that door open. Go in there and check on them. You see, you know. Some people might not have a phone in there. Others will have books. So if you go to a house and you see that there's books in the toilet, what's going on? They got books in the toilet, like a library. I went to one house. You see some places they've got books in the house. There shouldn't be no books in there, magazines and things like this. It shouldn't be like this, you know. You might find here F, reading Quran or doing dhikr in the toilet and saying that they are driving the jinn away. I had one patient doing that. So they read the Quran in the toilet. I said, what are you doing? I said, there's jinn in here. I'm giving them dawah. I'm trying to get the jinn out. I said, no. Leave that alone. Come here. Don't do this. You can see that they're going towards that psychosis sort of state. You've got to tell them, no, don't do this. We shouldn't be doing this. Read the Quran in the toilet. This is not right. We don't do this, you know. G here. You might hear them shouting in the toilet and they say that they are fighting jinn or giving dawah to the jinn. Now, that's another case I was dealing with. That's it. They're fighting, shouting at the jinn, thinking they're giving dawah to them. No. You've got to tell them, no, this is not a place for dawah now. You've got to just get in the toilet, do your business, get out. You see? H here. Listen to music and that it is soothing, and he has changed his opinion. Okay? Just realize there might be some typos here, some words, but I'm very sorry for you, but I'll correct those things later, but you can see the general thing here. All right. So you got some of them. They know it's haram. So you know, once you know that somebody agrees that it's haram, music, all right, he agrees that it's haram. Next week he's changed his opinion, it's not haram. Okay? And he starts saying to you, yeah, no, it helps me relax, it's soothing, you know? And he's changed his opinion. That's one of the signs. That's one of the signs. Remember, the jinns, what they need in order to take control of the patient, all right, is you to do a small sin, but you continuously do it. And then they'll get you, because they want to make you feel justified in what you're doing, and that you don't know that it's even a sin. So like here, why they changed his opinion? Well, make it think it's hard. So he won't think it's a sin, so he'll keep on doing it. Just like bid'ah. Some people do bid'ah, but they don't know it's a sin, but they'll keep doing it because they think it's okay. Same thing here. They make somebody might end up doing music, listen to music because he thinks it's okay to do, and he'll keep doing it, sadly. You know? Not doing their Islamic obligation like salah on time. They say that they join in all their prayers at night is permissible, and that they are making that you are making the deen difficult by saying you have to pray on time. That's another thing they'll say. So they might say to you, "Khalas, man, what I do, I put all of my salahs at 12 o'clock. And then I do what I say, qadha. Some people say, I'm doing it all together at this time, and this is what I need to do. So let me do this." You're making the deen difficult, Saeed. What are you saying you have to do? Deen is easy, akhi. Allah made the deen easy, you know? When you start seeing things like this is a problem. That's another thing we have to step in and tell them that they shouldn't be doing that, you know? They may want to be an actor or singer and start watching a lot of films and music videos. They may get professional photographs taken, like actors and singers. Yes, I remember dealing with a case like that. So they might want to become like an actor, or I'm going to be a famous singer. So they're thinking they were doing this, and they listen to music, watching videos, and they may actually go out and get some, professional photographs taken. And you see them. I remember seeing that in one patient. Look, these are my photographs. Photo like that, like all these, like hundreds of photos. There's a lot of pictures. You see all these photos, all this kind of posing. you know. And I remember one person saying like, and telling me about certain actor. That actor's no good. I'm the actor. He's not really a good actor. Again, he's starting. That psychosis is starting to get into some serious, take him to a serious place. You see, you might find that they smoking or vaping, and they will tell you that it isn't haram. It is difference of opinion. There's difference of opinion. It's makruh. It's okay. It's okay. So they start doing that. And what I've seen from smoking and vaping and that, it's actually, especially the smoking, you're basically jinn feeding. That's what I call it. Because what I've seen from when I remember listening to one Muslim who was a sahib before, and he told us what he used to do with the jinn. He said, what I used to do is give like, those incense sticks, burn incense sticks, and he put them in certain places, and it will burn. He said, the jinn will come and feed on the smoke. So some of the people who are smoking, that's what they're actually doing, and that's why sometimes it's difficult to get rid of the jinn possession, because they're feeding the jinn. Either the Qareen is eating this stuff or consuming this smoke, or the possessing jinn is consuming it. You see. What you say is makruh, into some deep conversation there, and they have got some fatwa from the past, saying some ulama saying that maybe it's okay, not too bad, makruh or something like this. They'll find something for you, like you find everything. Man, if you can tell them, if you want to follow the religion like this, then as ulama say that you can never be a zindiq. You could take this opinion, that opinion, this opinion, that opinion. Next thing you got a completely different religion. You're doing some crazy things because you've taken all of these weak opinions which don't really have much backing in that, and you end up doing something haram. You see? What you say to them, what I usually, which I get them, make them think, is I say, okay, brother, when you're smoking, do you say, Bismillah? I never said so. That's from the heart. I'm telling you, there's a problem there, brother. This is not right. Nobody says Bismillah when they're smoking. I've never said anybody. Have you heard anybody saying Bismillah? And say to you, no, never heard anybody saying Bismillah before they smoke. Khalas, this is a problem. There's a problem there, brother. You've got to stop this. You see. That's one line I use to basically start the conversation with them, that smoking is haram. You see? He might start doing strange dhikr, Allahu, Allahu, Allahu. He might start doing it and dancing like the Sufis while smoking and listening to music. And saying that we're getting into some trance. I'm doing something here. And he might say that I've seen the Muslims doing this. It's a good thing, actually. So you might go into those extreme things, going into the Allahu, and there's no evidence for Allahu as a dhikr. There's no evidence for that. Allahu, Allahu, where's the evidence for that? Where's the, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, yeah, but Allahu, I don't know. So you got to tell him that, look, you can't just make up your own thing. If it's good, then the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would have come with it and told us about it. You see. Now, M here. He might start thinking that he's the Mahdi. Yeah. So one of the signs is that he might start thinking he's the Mahdi. So you got to obviously tell him he's not the Mahdi. Tell him. You have to try and explain that to him. This sometimes can be difficult because sometimes they really do believe it. They actually do believe that they are Mahdi, but you've got to keep trying to convince them that they are not. They might start thinking that they're Isa alayhi salam. Actually start thinking they're Isa, So then you have the information. If you don't have the knowledge to deal with this situation, then you have to get somebody who's got the knowledge to refute that. So I remember dealing with one patient when I was on one mosque in London. He was actually giving out the leaflets. He's saying, I am, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, I am so-and-so, I'm Isa alayhi salam, I've come here, and he's got his own mission with what he's going to do. So I looked at that and just said, seek refuge in Allah from me. Okay? And I saw another brother seeing that, and he started cursing him and saying, get out of the mosque and this and that. I said, that brother actually should not treat the brother like that. He's ill. Don't talk to them like this. When you see all of these things I've told you about, these mental health cases, when you see it, don't look down at these brothers and sisters. Don't think that you're better than them. Just say, Alhamdulillah, Allah doesn't give me that fitna. Allah save me. I'm not in this situation, you see. So don't ever think that can't happen to you. It can definitely happen to you. It can definitely happen to you. And that might be the waswas where the shaitan comes to you, thinking that you're better than them, give you a bit of kibr, arrogancy, and you think, this is for these people. This is not for me. I'm the Raaqi. This never happens to me. No, I know that some of these things can happen to me. So when I get some crazy stories, people phoning me and telling me some sad situations they're in, when I, people telling me that, look, Spam, I'm going from crazy things, this is happening, I'm getting this waswas, what do I do? And we know it's waswas. And he's saying, brother, I'm getting these very bad feelings to do something haram, What do I do in this situation? So, when he tells me the situation, I don't want to mention it because it's quite graphic, what the person wants to do, you see, and I tell them, look, I put the phone down and said, look, I can do that as well. So I know myself that it's only Allah saved me from this. I could do the same thing. And I tell them patients, that actually does help the patients when you tell them, brother, don't worry. This is a waswas you're getting. You're getting waswas. I will get this. It can happen to me. But alhamdulillah, Allah's not giving me this fitna. You've got it now. Just be patient. Allah will help you, inshallah ta'ala, you see. Here. You see, they might say that they have been sent to guide people because the scholars are corrupt and he has been sent to establish the hujjah, the proof on the people. So that's what they might say to you. Sometimes that can be quite difficult to get them out of this situation. No, you don't understand. And he might have a particular name, Ahmed, Muhammad, Ibrahim, or something like one of these sort of names. He might have a name, which is from the Quran, and say, look, you don't know, I've got this. That's why I'm here. Like I've got some sort of dawah to do. You don't understand. I have to help the people come back to the religion. Look at the ulama, what they're doing. Look, see all this corruption. Yes, there's some corruption. Yeah? But it doesn't mean that you've been sent by Allah. What's your evidence that you've been sent by Allah? No, I've been sent by Allah. So in some ways, he's kind of claiming prophethood in some ways, in some sort of sense, in that, if you understand what I'm saying, he's sort of claiming that, you see. So when you start thinking, you see patients going down that line, you have to stop it. Don't just dismiss it and think that he'll get over it. No, they don't get over it, sadly. When they start getting into this situation, if you don't tell them about sins and that, they might not get over it, and then they'll maybe end up in the situation when their jinn is manifested completely, and then you have to call the police, the ambulance to take them to the hospital, you see. And that's not a bad thing to take them to the hospital. That's another stigma, which sadly we think that it's a bad thing to send your relative or friend or whatever to the hospital. No, it's okay, don't worry. It's a good thing to send them to the hospital. There's nothing wrong with that. They're ill. Inshallah, they'll get better and they'll come out, you see. So some people are keeping their relative at home when in reality the best place for them is the hospital, so they can get their certain drugs to help them deal with the situation that they're in, you see. He may say, and we on here P, he may say that we have to do jihad, okay? And then I've got here my story about the brother approaching us here in the restaurant. So he might say to do jihad. So I remember I was at the table with my friends, we're eating dinner, out of the blue, one brother just comes close to us here. And he just starts saying, brothers, we have to do jihad. It's time for jihad. What are you going to do? Come on, are you munafiqs? Things like that, speaking like that to us. So already we sort of knew, alhamdulillah, the brothers already had an idea. There's something wrong here. All be quiet. Don't start arguing with him that there's no jihad and things like this here. He wants to do jihad now in London. Don't need to talk to him and start arguing with him and give him dalil. He's not in the state to accept the dalil. How can you start telling him Quranic ayah, hadith? What are you saying? No, we're going to do jihad right here. Let him say what he wants to say and just tell him, brother, it's okay. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Don't say anything to make the situation worse than what it is. After a while, we left him. We just nodded our head, so listening to him. We didn't disrespect him or anything like that. He just left us. That sort of situation you're in with somebody like that again. When I looked at him, I didn't see like it was a complete jinn talking to me. No, it's the brother. I can see it's the brother, but I can see he's unwell. You see, and that sort of situation, you have to talk to them, and again, get them out of that situation, get them out of that state. Psychosis, they're going towards that. We need to get them out of that, and tell them about, obviously, again, sins. It's so easy. People, they reject it. When I tell people, I say, no, but really, it's just that, sins. Wait, is that, that's going to sort that out? Yeah. Sins, because that's what the jinn's got power to give him that strong response. When the jinn is inside you, you've got sins, it made you weak. That's what's happened. So the first thing is to get rid of the sins. You see, like I said, so easy. That's why people don't accept it, and that's why people just go. They want a story. What do people want? They want he's got a big fat jinn inside him, or he's got many jinn inside him. That's what they want to hear. But in reality, it's quite simple. No, it's just that he's got sins, and that's what's caused the problem. Allah doesn't put a burden beyond your ability. So he's not going to give you some ifrit jinn or something like that you can't handle. He's going to give you something that you can handle. So whatever you got, and even the jinn is speaking, Allah's not going to give you something which is beyond you. He'll give you what is according to your level. So he'll give you a jinn which is according to your level, test you with that, or punish you with that, and you can get out of that situation, you see, just by stopping the sins. Okay, it's got nothing to do with it. You've got multiple jinn possession. There's millions of jinns inside you. That's why the jinn is speaking. No, it's got nothing to do with that. You've got a big fat jinn inside you. No, you've got a powerful jinn inside you. No, it's got nothing to do with that. You see, even if Iblis goes inside you and has gone into some of my patients, if he himself goes inside you for temporarily, goes in there, he goes inside patients temporarily. Okay, we'll talk about that later when we get there, because I want you to tell me, what do you read? Which book do you read when you got Iblis inside you? You can't say, I want to kill him. It doesn't work. You can't say, I'm going to hit him. What are you going to say? Well, there's a book you've got to do, and I'll tell you about that later. You see, so Iblis will even go inside you. And if Iblis is inside you, you've got no sins, he's not talking. He's not talking. You can't even control. You can't even take control of your hand. You've got the power over him. You have the power over him. Yeah. He may say here, Q, he may say that they are watching me. And here they usually mean spy agencies, you see. So they'll feel that they're being watched, you know. And I remember there was a brother saying to me without any context or background information, something like, so I remember I was going towards, want to go in the mosque for prayer. So he sees me, stops me. And he says to me, don't worry. Don't worry about it. It's all under control. They're trying, but they can't win. And it's all out of context. So just imagine you're going to work and you just see somebody saying that to you. Don't worry. It's all under control. They won't win. But after talking to him for a little while, I realized he's talking about spy agencies. Somebody's watching him and that. I didn't know what it was because I wasn't expecting, out of context, out of the blue, just what do you mean? Don't worry. You know? When you see that kind of behavior, then you know that there's an issue. Okay? Again, that patient, what you need to do, advise them regarding sins. Sins, stop sinning, and then inshallah ta'ala, your situation will be much better. You know, your situation will be much better. Okay. Afterwards, that brother, and again, I was just listening to him, let him talk, because I know him quite well. All right, talking. Then finally he says, oh yeah, spy agencies, they're watching me. Then he says it. But all of the context, I don't know what it was. I was, okay, that's what he meant. I thought him and jinn are watching him. He said, no, humans are watching him from spy agencies. They're watching him, you see. You know? Or here, he might see something strange, then this, and then this was for him from Allah, e.g. seeing green parrots in London and saying something like, these are the martyrs in green birds, that they have come to help him in his mission. And it's very difficult to refute. So you know, when we go to London, I've seen them. It looks strange. You've got these little green parrots. I mean, they're parrots. I'm sure they're like the type of parrot flying around in London. So what's that happening here? Where you going? They're flying around. So one patient actually saw something like that. And he comes back thinking it's something special for him, or he thought it was something special. You see, it's very difficult. Sometimes they may even think that these are the green birds, the martyrs. They've come to help me. You know, they've come to help, because it's a very strange thing to see green birds, parrots flying around. That's something maybe you'll see in the tropics, maybe, or something like this. But they're here. We've got these birds in London. You see, you know. Yeah. S here might try to commit suicide because they are burdened on their family, e.g. no job. So they might get that as well. Like I said, do that. It's case with that sister. She was thinking of committing suicide in the bathroom. All right, she's thought about it. She's thinking about it. Spent time in there. So you've got to make sure, time them in these bathrooms. Once you see the relative is getting funny, strange, acting strange, make sure you don't let them spend too much time in that bathroom, you see. Okay? They might want to commit suicide because you're useless, you're a burden for your family. That's the response they're getting. You're no good, no job, you're not married, you've got no children, where are you going with your life? Keep talking like this to them, all right? You're a burden for your family, especially those cases where the poor patient has been going in and out of the mental hospital, and they've not got a solution for their problem. So they're very vulnerable to this waswas. You're a burden to the family. Look what you're making your mother go through, and your father, she's crying every few months. You're making her cry, but you're going back to the hospital, coming back out again. You're going in and out. Your problem's not solved. You know, they can't help you. Just kill yourself. That would be better for your mum. And obviously, this is haram. They shouldn't be doing that. And patients should not be. Explain to them that you love them, and Show love to them, obviously. When you're giving them about sins and that, you obviously show them love. And when you give that advice regarding sins, tell them I'm a sinner. I always start with, when I'm giving patients advice regarding sins, this can happen to me, I do sins. But I try to make tawbah every single day. Don't want to fall into sins, because I can fall into sins. I'm not better than you, I got sins. So once you put that and explain that to them, and explain to the situation that they're in, it is not that bad, you just need to stop sinning, then they'll get their situation under control. Then inshallah ta'ala, they won't feel so bad. And then these thoughts about committing suicide because they want a burden for their family, they won't believe that. They won't, because you've given the reassurance that you're not a burden to us. It's worse if you kill yourself. And what you have to do sometimes, I don't think there's a problem if you actually say that to them, even if they haven't got the waswas yet, because that waswas is coming. That waswas is coming. I know from there, it comes in the end. So you hit them before it comes. You be better than the shaitan. You come forward and hit them. Yeah, and know what? If you ever think that suicide is better than staying with us and causing all these problems for us, we don't care about what you do regarding that. We love you and we want to help you. Don't think that you're a burden on us. Do not think that you're a burden. Okay? We're here to help you and we love you. Tell them that. See? Tell them that. They may T here. They might try to commit suicide because they feel that they are not good Muslims, and Allah won't forgive them. Yes, we've got patients like that. They've done too much. I've not been worshipping Allah for such a long time. I've not really studied the Deen. I'm burdened. Look, now I'm studying the Deen in my 50s. I mean, so one patient didn't have basically some of the basics, Tawheed and things like that. Some of the basic things we study, didn't study that for years, And then the waswas they got was that you're not a good Muslim, you don't know much about your deen. Just Allah's not going to forgive you. Just basically kill yourself. You see, it's not worth worshipping Allah. You're too evil. In reality, when you look at the patient, they're not very evil. They're not doing much anyway. They won't do much, but but the jinn are trying to put them into that state. You see, V here. Oh, so no, you. They might start speaking to or seeing unseen creatures or unseen humans, which are basically jinn. So they might actually start saying they're seeing things. Right? They might tell you this. They might say, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. And basically what they're seeing jinn. Okay, not in their real form, but they're seeing in like an animal form or something like this. They're seeing not in their true original form. They'll see things. Okay, they'll see things. And they might tell you that they're seeing things. Take that as a sign. Okay, this is a problem. Because in reality, we shouldn't be seeing jinn like this. None of us should be seeing jinn. When you go to your house and you see somebody say, I just saw some jinn, and I say, there's a problem here. So what's going on here? We shouldn't have that. That's one of the signs that somebody's got some spiritual disease in the house. Especially for the Muslims, it may be the sign that you've got sihr in the house. How do I know this? From my own experience. And I dismissed it. So I had my daughter telling me, Dad, I saw this and I saw that. She'll see things flying in the room. She's very young. And sometimes the young children, they can see jinn. They see these things. She saw this. And she said, Dad, I got up one evening, and I just saw these basically the heads of cats looking at me. And, trying to bite me, basically. And then she went back to sleep. And I said, darling, don't worry about this. We do our adhkar. Don't worry about these things, you see. And this was actually happening to me in Medina when I was working in David University. There's an English teacher there. So you get things happening in Medina, And I remember she told me once in the house in Medina, or the village we were staying in Medina, she went to the bathroom and she's brushing her teeth and that. And she said she felt some hands come over her and cover her face like that. And she said, Dad, you know what? I felt something like, how the game, sometimes I'll play games like that. Why? I said, oh, you didn't see me, it's me. You do these funny things. Daddy, somebody came while I was brushing my teeth into the bathroom and covered my eyes like that. But the funny thing, Daddy? I could see through their hands, their fingers. I could see everything. She felt the hands, but she was see-through hands. That's what she said to me. I said, again, what did I do? So before I'm into Ruqya, I don't know anything about Ruqya right now at this particular time. So I just dismissed it, said, we do adhkar, say the adhkar for the toilet. Maybe you didn't say that, that's why you got this problem. But in reality, what it is, if you've got these issues happening in your house, then there is a problem. Somebody's got sihr in the house, somebody's got some jinn issues. Something has happened, you need to do ruqya, diagnosis to find out what's going on. Because in general, what we've seen from experience, the jinn, they keep away from the Muslims. Practicing house. If your house is a practicing house and you don't do any haram, you're not doing any haram, you know generally your house is, you know, you're not doing any haram there, then you shouldn't have jinn. They will keep away from you. They'll run away from your house. They don't come to you. They won't come to you. They will keep away from you. So I know this from my experience, and I've seen it from other people. Once I hear that from somebody, and I look at their house, and I see that the house is like a good Muslim house, I say, we need to do ruqya diagnosis. Something is happening here. Okay? And I'll say that's probably a sign, more likely that it's sihr that you've got there. You see. So they might, anytime they're seeing like unseen humans, they might see little humans or whatever, and it's all basically the jinn just playing around with them. Okay, that's when you've got to stop and again, give them that advice, stop sinning and do ruqya diagnosis to find out what's going on. You see, even if it's your children who see it, like what happened to me with my daughter, we need to check ourselves. Something's going on here. This is not right. Jinn should not be with us. And what those jinns were, when I realized afterwards, these were the guard jinn. The guard jinn which was sent to center. So I had a jinn inside me, okay, which was sihr. The jinn itself is sihr. So I don't have any separate sihr in my body. The jinn itself is the sihr. So the sahib sent to me a jinni, and the jinn is inside my body. Those jinni is connected to some guard jinns. Those guard jinns were in the form of cats. I remember seeing the cats afterwards when I started doing my treatment. I remember seeing cats. It's a cat. When I remember getting up half asleep, I remember seeing a cat's head looking at me. I said, oh, there's a cat. Oh, there's cats. And I see the cat flying across the room, you see. So I had a jinni inside me, and the jinn itself was a sihr, so there's no separate sihr in the body, you see. And you got the guardians attached to this jinni. That's what my daughter was seeing. She's seeing these guardians. That's what you're probably seeing. Because the guardians have been sort of forced to stay here in the house to make sure that the jinn which is inside my body to do the job, basically do the mission that he's supposed to do. Okay. They might say that angels are helping them get up for Fajr or helping them do good deeds. In reality, it's jinn impersonating angels. So you've got cases where the person will say, no, it's okay, you don't understand, brother. I've got the angels are helping me. Well, you don't set that alarm? No, I don't need to set the alarm. It's the angels are helping me get up for Fajr. In reality, what's happening there, they've got jinn who are pretending to be basically angels and saying that they're angels. They'll come in white as well. They'll come white color. They'll come in that. And they'll say, we're come to help you, you know. That's a sign that this is not good, all right? And they've got this, you say, this something's gone wrong here, all right? You shouldn't be seeing signs like, you should be seeing things like this as well. So that's another sign that you have to tell the patient, you've got to stop sinning, okay? They may make strange noises or start crying or laughing while praying. But after Salah, they seem normal. So you've got people, and I've noticed them in the mosques, crying, laughing, doing some funny things in the mosque, all right, or in their Salah. And after that, they seem normal afterwards. You know, that's a sign that that's probably the jinn may be coming through during the Salah, and then it goes back into the patient, you see, and you don't hear anything of it. So that's a sign that you have to be careful. That's a sign that maybe there's something wrong here, all right? Again, that jinn is manifesting because of the sins of the patient. That's what's happening there. X here, a total change in character. For example, being very kind to being very rude and abrupt. Being very respectful to elders and being extremely disrespectful. So you've got a big change in character. When you see this big change in character, okay, that's the issue. That's one of the signs that, yeah, you've got an issue here. And I dealt with a patient like that. I remember seeing this sort of behavior in a young man. And then he got sectioned. Section is a legal term to say into the hospital. And I helped him with his treatment, and he listened to me. And then there was a complete transformation, completely changed. And to this day, I'm shocked at this transformation. I can't believe it is the same man, same young man. When you look at it, like a Jekyll and Hyde. Sorry to use that term, but you know, it's like that. So, I look at him sometimes. It's wow, look at that. Look at that patient. You know, from this rude, abrupt like that, treating me, treating me very well, and then polite, wonderful person to interact with. You see, you know. That basically shows you how waswas can change a person's character. Just waswas. Getting waswas from the feelings and emotions. Remember, the jinns can read your mind. So they know what you intended to do. They're thinking, I want to pray tahajjud tonight. Well, they know that. So they're going to prepare yourself for that. They're inside you, okay? We know this from experience. They're reading your mind. They know what you're doing, what to do. They can read your mind, see what you want to do, and they can generate feelings and emotions inside you. Make you hate someone, love somebody. They can do all of that, you see? So waswas can have such an effect that you can see that the person completely changes, you know? Like I said, a Jekyll and Hyde person. Okay, number 1 here, scrolling down. You must obviously try to refute some of the above misunderstandings. But if you can't, you must get somebody qualified or somebody who can do this. You have to do this. Don't just leave it alone. So you have somebody who's thinking he's the Mahdi or Isa alayhi salam. Why are you letting him think this? I remember seeing there was one poor video and people were laughing at this poor brother in the video. I think it's one of my friends, Sheikh Ustadh Khan's talk, and it's on YouTube somewhere where some people are mocking this poor brother, and this poor brother's got arrows pointing at him saying that he thinks he's the Mahdi and stuff like this. The brother's ill. We shouldn't be mocking these kind of people, really. You know? I think Sheikh Ustadh Khan didn't know anything about this story. He just ready giving his talk, you know? But that situation, what needed to be done, not laugh at the brother, just say, brother, you're not the Mahdi, leave it alone. You know, explain to him that the situation what he's in. He's not, you're not that person. Explain. Don't just leave it alone. You must try to refute their misunderstandings, you see. Number 2 here, you must tell them to stop sinning because sins have got them into this semi-psychosis sort of state. This advice to stop sins will prevent this situation becoming worse. You need to tell them about sins of the heart, tongue, and limbs. Okay, yeah. So this advice is the first advice you give them. And when you tell them about the sins, you don't just limit it to the outward sins, because some of the patients will look, and this is one of the problems that families have, that when you look at the patient, outwardly, they look fine. But I don't think he's doing any sins. What do you mean he's not doing any sins? We don't see him saying anything haram or doing anything with his mouth, tongue haram, or we don't see him doing with his limbs something haram. But in reality, what he's got something to do with his heart. There's some sins of the heart which you can't see. So sometimes patients, and it's sad to say this, is that they have some resentment towards Allah. They're upset with Allah. Like I dealt with one patient, the jinn was talking, making a lot of noise and that. We finally, cut a long story short, the reason why that was happening, because of the sin, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't let her marry the man she wanted to marry. That's it. So what did she have? She's a little bit upset with Allah. That's what she said. I said, this is kufr. What are you doing? This is crazy. So you're going to make tawbah, says, come back, you know? Maybe Allah had mercy on her because he knows this was coming from waswas and she just accepted it. See, what you've got to do, the jinn are going to throw this waswas at you with the heart, issue of the heart. They'll throw that kind of crazy waswas towards you, making you try to disbelieve in Allah and be upset with Allah. What you've got to do as a patient, just reject it. Don't accept it. Once you accept it and think, yeah, that's right. Allah's helped me. And it'll come to you as if you're talking to yourself as well. What I call in my article, waswas, which I think I've put here, the waswas article, waswas and possession jinn al-Qareem. They will use what I call an impersonating whisper. And what that basically is, the jinn will talk to you inside your body as if you're talking to yourself. So when you hear it, it sounds like you. It sounds like me, and it actually feels like me. And so the person believes me. In fact, I remember I had a lot of this. So I remember the time when I didn't know anything about waswas. Nobody told me anything about, alhamdulillah, brothers, they taught me well regarding tawheed and things like this. But when it comes to ruqya, I had absolutely no clue about this stuff. General understanding of ruqya, you read ruqya like this. But to know about waswas, nobody told me the jinn is going to be able to read your mind. He's going to pretend to be you inside you. He's going to generate feelings and emotions. He's going to do these things. So I remember a point where I would hear this kufr and stuff in my head. And I wouldn't know Saeed, is that me? So I would know, you know what? That sounds like me. And even actually feels like me. So it got so bad for me that I actually would make tawbah and I would say the shahada again. And I wouldn't tell anybody about it, my friends. So if I tell my friends this thing, they're going to make takfir on me. So it's like you're on your own with this. So I'm dealing with this problem on my own, you see, sadly. And a lot of patients are like this. They're dealing with these issues on their own and they're not telling other people because people are quick to criticize. They're not trying to figure out what the situation is. And some people, if they do go to certain sheikhs and that and say, explain situations, certain what they are, maybe the sheikh, you can. They might make takfir on them. Sorry, some people with knowledge, maybe they will do this or have some sort of knowledge, you know, they might say this to them when you don't explain the situation fully, you see. And that's maybe one of the reasons why I didn't say anything to anybody. Why? Because I've seen people, this happening to people. I remember even seeing one case where somebody got killed. It was a young man, 14 or something like this. I think this is one with the somewhere Muslim world. He said something. No looking at the patient. And I remember seeing that story. They're not even asking what the Christian is and that. They just killed him straight away. This is kufr. And they just killed him. Some people, some adults. Not looking at, is this the jinn speaking? What's going on here? Let's wait a little bit. Could be the jinn saying kufr. And you got to get sometimes the jinn will say kufr. But it's the jinn speaking. Wait. Maybe he's majnoon. We can't just kill somebody if he's and who is you for you to kill? Wait, let's take him to the judge. This is Islamic country now, Muslim country. You got to go. There's a system we have here. You can't just take the law into your own hands. You know, sadly, Muslims do this. So that's maybe one of the reasons I didn't maybe say something even to my own close friends that I'm getting these crazy things, and I'm taking shahada every week. I didn't say this to people. I just kept it to myself. Only after alhamdulillah. But what I benefited from that situation has helped me with my patients. So when I give them the advice now, they listen to it because they don't know that's happened to me. I'm telling you, really? Yeah. So don't listen to it. What do I do in this situation? Do you hate that waswas, what he's saying about Allah? Yeah, I hate it. I say, khalas, that means you've got iman. That's your sign that you've got iman. The very fact that you hate it and you don't like it, I don't like it. And then you make tawbah and that. Don't make tawbah, and it's not you, it's the jinn. Ignore it. Allah's not going to hold you accountable for that because it's not you, it's the jinn. So someone you tell them that stuff, they feel rest, calm, and they're obviously happy. You have to tell them, so that's the area where you might not, tongue and the limbs, you can tell them about those things because people will see that. But it's the one in the heart, that's where the issue is. People don't look into the heart. Look at the sins of the heart. Some sort of issue between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you see. And like I said earlier, what we're talking about here is the major sins or continuously doing the same minor sins. That's what we've got to deal with here. Number 3 here. Muslims in the above mental state, when we talk about those examples I gave you, who, before going into the hospital, Muslims in the above state are very vulnerable to being picked up by extremists to do a terrorist attack. Or they may join an extreme group. They might do something like you're vulnerable now. Like I said to that person who was in the restaurant when I was talking about, we need to do jihad. Somebody like that, all it takes is somebody to confuse them and say, yes, it's part of we have to do jihad here, you have to do this, do here, you can start here, brother. That's all it takes. So somebody who in that state, they might start doing something like that, you see, Yeah. So sometimes the jinn, you might not have, they might make some noises. Like I said with the HW or the case in Salah, they might say, that's your sign, look, this is getting serious. If that's happening more frequently, the noises in the Salah, that shows you, look, the advice is not being taken on. And then that's where you're going to be a bit more firm with the patient. Look, you've got to stop sinning because you're still making those noises. You're still making those noises. You're still thinking, you're still in this state. So you want to just keep giving the advice until you see some of these symptoms reduce. So him thinking that he's something special, him making noises in Salah, once that goes down, then you're on a better, the situation is getting better, you see. Right. There are certain organizations and even governments, sadly, around the world who would love to use these kinds of vulnerable, gullible Muslims to carry out false flag missions. Okay, so it is important that you keep track of these poor Muslims' actions and who they are speaking to. So you've got to be careful. You've got to keep them including online. So when you see these poor Muslims are in this sort of situation, and they're talking like this and they're talking strange like this jihad and stuff like this and like that, you got to keep track of them. Because all it takes is somebody just to say something to them, and there are some sadly, no, we've got evil governments out there. I mean, we're going to deny this now? We know that there's some sort of false flag Muslims. This happens, sadly. Some people, they do these things. They would like Muslims to do certain things, so obviously to ruin Islam, basically, and the names of Muslims and the Ummah, basically. So we've got to identify, when you've got these poor brothers and sisters, make sure you know who they're talking to, speaking to online especially, because now a lot of the conversations and the grooming is done by online stuff, okay? Sending the message and things like this. So you've got to be careful, you see? You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful with this, you see? So they might get groomed to carry out a terrorist attack or join an extreme group. This might happen. So in order to stop these kind of things happening, okay, you've got to keep track of them. I remember hearing one patient saying that he wants to go do some things, and you've got to tell them no. Like that person in the restaurant. There were other ones I've had, a few more saying things like this. They want to do something. So you've got to tell them, no, this is not, we can't be. What do we do? What? You do what? No, you got to do something. So you got to stop. And we'll talk about some of those things, inshallah ta'ala, later, where when the patient is in a totally serious psychosis state, and you've got to deal with that sort of situation. We'll talk about that later on, inshallah ta'ala. Now, some of the situation is that, and because you don't have medical evidence or proof that the Muslim is slightly ill or is going towards being sectioned, then it might be difficult to get them released from custody or prison if they do something illegal. And they may get convicted of terrorism, possibly. Hence the importance of keeping an eye on such Muslims. Because these people have not gone to the hospital, they don't have a good record, maybe. These Muslims are ill, but not 100% ill yet. They haven't got any issue here. So, if they do something, then the person, they will see them as like, they're not ill. This is not mental illness. This is like an evil person. That's what they'll say. And the media would love somebody like that. You see? They would love somebody like that. I remember I dealt with one case where one of the patients who was not fully cured yet, but he was following my treatment plan. He still had some issues with psychosis because he's falling to sin sometimes. I remember he picked up the phone, and I think he phoned 999 and said he's going to do something, kill somebody, some important person. He's going, I'm going to kill so-and-so. So the police got worried. What's this? This is what's going on here. But alhamdulillah, cut a long story short, because he's got a record, what did the police do? They contacted his doctor, psychiatrist, and said this person's ill. So then the police just left it. They didn't do anything because they didn't the person's ill. But if you haven't got any of that sort of record, medical record, you're only going to be in trouble, basically. You might be in trouble. Allah knows best. Allah obviously in the inshallah, they hope this doesn't happen, and they might realize that you're ill. But it might not be if you're in the sense that, because it's not such a, you're not in such a state. You're not schizophrenic, no schizophrenia or anything like that. It's not that bad. So it might be difficult to prove that you are mental health. You've got mental health illness, because there's no record of you going to the hospital. That patient had a record. So the psychiatrist can say, no, this patient's ill and he's under my care. So then the police just left him alone. You see, Just a point here, NB here. Grooming is an offense. So if you feel that somebody is being groomed to do something haram, then report it to the police, as you might save the life of the patient and other lives. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with calling the police when you're dealing with this situation. If you know somebody's trying to get your brother or relative to do something haram. Yeah, there are people like this. They're going to do this, trying to get you to do something haram. Kill people, blow up something, or do something, stab people in the market or whatever. He's doing this, or call the police and tell you, this person is doing this to my relative. No problem. You haven't done anything haram there. You're trying to stop something. You see? Because if you don't do anything, you say, no, I can't call the police. Well, if you don't call the police, either your relative, your brother, your husband or whatever is going to maybe die, and other people might die with him as well. You see? SubhanAllah. Number 5, we move on to number 5 here. I have dealt with sihr on Muslims by a foreign government. They basically want practicing Salafi, athletes or Muslims to stop practicing. The Sahid who did it was a so-called Muslim. Yeah, I dealt with that. So what I've seen from my experience, they don't like people practicing Salafi, athletes or Islam. They don't like that. The jinn, obviously. All right? And some of these organizations, some of these companies, they don't like you practicing your Islam. Okay? They prefer you maybe just to become a Sufi. That's what they would prefer you to do. You see, and Iblis will prefer you to be a Sufi as well. You see, now I mentioned to you earlier about the Sufi sihr I told you about earlier, which we know exists and which these so-called Sufi sheikhs are doing on people, sadly. So I dealt with a situation where that foreign government did sihr to stop him practicing Islam, this particular brother, because he was a Salafi, basically. That's it, and that's all it was. So they don't want you to practice, sadly. So number 6 says, so if you are teaching or practicing Salafi Athari Islam, then you are a target. I have tried to tell Salafi Imams to be careful as they are a target for Sufi Sahids and Sufi Sihr. I've tried to tell people, some people, but sadly only a few have listened. Only a few people really listen to me when it comes to this thing. They think, no, we're okay, we're doing our Afghan. You don't know, brother. Be careful. You know, Sufi Sahids are targeting us. Remember, they see us as Wahhabis. So they're after you. They need to stop you doing what you're doing. Your Islam is a big problem for them. And when I told my those friends who decided did become Sufi in the end, who was Salafi, who become Sufi, I said, okay, what's the problem with Shaykh al-Islam's Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab's Kitab al-Tawhid? Okay, where's the issue? Never really come back to me on anything on that. Where is the problem, brother? I don't see a problem. It's this, through this da'wah, okay, that I'm able to deal with the Iblis and his army and all of that. That's what basically Allah saved me through this da'wah. So how is it wrong? If I follow the Sufi stuff, then I'll be a Sufi doing sihr on people, maybe. I'll be a sahib, basically. You see? So I know, but that's just personally for my own belief, for my own experience, that is the correct Islam. Because I've used it to deal with Iblis himself. Okay? And Iblis is trying to make me seek the help of the jinn and all of this. And that's what sadly the Sufis will tell you. It is okay to seek the help of the jinn. You know, it's okay. Okay to take the help of the jinn, and you know, you're doing good things, karama, and doing things. No, it's not. It's no good. We mustn't take anything from these jinn, even Muslim jinn. We don't deal with them, you see. Now, one of the reasons why we hear some crazy stories about Salafis doing strange things with women is because maybe these poor Salafis have probably got sihr with jinn possession. Yes. So I've heard of cases where some even well-known speakers and that fall into some haram with certain people, with women and things like this. Now, why does that happen? I think because they deal with Sufi sihr and things like this. That's why. That's what I believe. And Allah knows best. But looking at the situation, when I look at some of these cases, I see this. You know, and I remember I dealt with one Imam. He would say, when I go to the mimbar, when I'm on the mimbar side, I'll get in the days and it all goes black, and I can't even give the khutbah. I said, let's see what's really. So it goes all black side. I can't see anybody. This man obviously not falling into any sins and that. But imagine that going into going in the mimbar, and then everything becomes. Where's everybody? It's all black. So he doesn't see anything. I remember him telling me as well, when I'm driving the car, and then there's a big truck coming towards me on the other side, I got a strange feeling to turn the car. I can't explain this. I want to turn the car into the thing. I said, that sounds dangerous, brother. Okay, that sounds dangerous, Sheikh. Let's do the ruqyah. We did the ruqyah. We found sihr. We found jinn. Did the treatment on him. Alhamdulillah, he was better. It helped him, you know. So some have listened. Some of the brothers have listened to me. Some of the sheikhs have listened to me, but others are not. I don't know if they just don't understand. They don't appreciate they don't appreciate the hatred the Sufis have for you. That's the key. If you understood that, and I see what they're doing, then maybe they will do the ruqyah and just check themselves and be careful with this situation. Because they don't appreciate what's going on, I can see what's happening. But because they're not in that field of ruqyah, and some of them actually keep away from ruqyah, so I don't want headache side, I can't be dealing with that stuff. So they don't really read ruqyah on themselves to check themselves for these things. And they don't know really how engrossed and how the Sufis, they take this thing serious. It's like a jihad for them against the Wahhabis. It's a serious jihad they're doing with the Sufi sihr that they're doing, you see. Right, let's move on to the next part here. Signs that the possessing jinn have taken the control due to sins. Right. The patient can't recite the Quran properly, and they slur their recitation as if they have a speech impediment. So I'm not going to use the Quran here. I'm going to use numbers. But I'm going to count the numbers, and I'll explain it to you what it means. So you have the patient. When you tell them, okay, read the ruqyah on yourself. Let me hear you. Well, let me hear you do the ruqyah on yourself. And let me see what your problem is, because they'll tell me they've got a problem. I can't read the ruqyah side. What do you mean you can't read the ruqyah? Just read the ruqyah on yourself. I can't read. Okay. Let me hear you. You read the ruqya yourself. And what happened to them, when what they'll do, they'll read like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what happens to them. And as soon as I see that, I say, you've got the problem with the jinn trying to take over you, stop you reading. You see? That's a case of the jinn trying to take over and stop the reading, because the reading is burning the jinn, so it's going to stop you doing the ruqya. So that's one of the signs, okay, that you have. Okay, I'll repeat again just for you to so you can I'll do that again at demonstration. So you find them reading, when they ask them to read the Quran, they read it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that. That's how they read it, you know. Once you see that, jinn is trying to take over. Other cases where you will find that the jinn can't even, the person can't even read. So read, they can't do it. They're talking to you normally, but they can't read. So okay, read the ruqya yourself now. They can't do it. They can't do it. So and they start, okay, and they talk to you, okay, do it again, just read now. They can't do it. So that's a sign the jinn is stopping it's a sign that the patient's got sins. That's a sign. So we're talking here at the top of here. Signs that the jinn, the possessing jinn, have taken control due to sins. So they're taking control, yeah? So they can stop the recitation. All right? So that's what's happening over there. They stop the recitation. Okay? Or they'll slur their speech, they get the Quranic recitation, they can't even read properly. So they're the two examples. That means that the jinn has got power to stop the person talking. Number 2 here. They can't stop limb movements when you tell them to stop their movements. So maybe when I'm reading ruqya on a patient, okay, or they're reading themselves, I say to, okay, stop your arm moving, brother. Stop the arm moving. Stop the arm then, and you're reading the ruqya. So I'm reading the ruqya and you tell them, you point maybe to stop. They can't stop it. And you might find that sometimes they're hitting them as well, like that, and they can't stop it. That's one of the signs that he's got power over you. Because you can't stop. Can you stop when you after you finish the ruqya? Could you stop that? I said, no, I can't stop that. I said, that's not a good sign. Sometimes it gets really bad where they start even strangling the patient. The patient, their own hand getting strangled by the same jinn, like this. That's how sad it is for some patients, sadly. Okay, so if they can't stop the limb movements, and when you tell them to stop, that's a sign that here the jinn have got power over them. How? Because of the sins of the patient. Right, number 3 here. Jinn crying, laughing, supposed to be growling, not growing, supposed to be growling, grinning, speaking, okay? The family will know it is not their son or daughter, and will use the family to work out who it basically is, because they obviously know who the real person is. So if you'll find that the jinn is crying, laughing, growling, grinning, speaking, and doing all these sort of utterances, all right? When you look at when you ask the family, is this your son? Is this your daughter? They will say to you, no, this is not my son. So no, that's your sign it is. Sometimes I can tell that it's not the patient. You can tell it's the jinn. Okay, finally grinning that. And when you tell the patient, when the patient comes back after the ruqya session, because this sometimes happens during the ruqya, and the patient comes back and says, okay, why were you crying, sister, brother? Why are you crying? I don't know. They can't give you a definitive answer. They can't give you an answer why they were crying. They can't tell you why. They'll just say, I was crying, but I don't know. I was just crying. You see? Same thing laughing. Why are you laughing? What are you laughing at? I don't know. I was just laughing. So that's a sign that the jinn has got taken power over the person and taken control. How are they taking control? Because of sins. Okay. Number 4 here. For more examples, please download the table results from this article here. So you've got a table there, results in that article there, how sins affect possessed Muslims. If you go and click on that article, you'll find that there's a link. Don't do it now because we're in the talk later on. You can click a table of results which I got from patients and my students. We basically tabulated all of the results we've seen for patients. So you can look at those and see if your patient, if your relative has some of those signs, then you know that, hey, you've got this sign because of sin, so we need to stop sinning, you see. Right, next section, okay? Patients causing chaos and havoc at home, admit them to hospital. Okay, that's what we've got to do, admit them to hospital. So number one here, if you see you can't control the patient at home, then admit them into hospital. If this is a jinn case, then this is because of the patient's sins. So if you're dealing with a patient and it's very difficult to control them, they're breaking things in the house, picking up knives and trying to maybe want to attack people, then you need to admit this person to hospital. Okay, you need to call the ambulance and you need to get this person to hospital. All right. And obviously, again, it's because of the sins. And I'll keep repeating that sentence there because I've seen people. I want you to understand how important it is. It's to do with the sins. Because some people, they still can't understand it. You tell me this is to do with sins? It's to do with sins. All of this stuff he was doing. All we've got to tell him to do is stop sinning. Yes, it's all to do with sin. Just stop him to do sins and then you get that thing under control. Again, it's so simple. People are not willing to accept it. And sadly, some of the Raaqis who make money from these kind of cases, they're not going to accept it. Why are they not going to accept it? Why are they making money from this kind of cases? Isn't it? You have to keep reading the Ruqya, on it. Oh no, the jinn is still talking. And sometimes some of these Raaqis, they like talking to the jinn as well. You see, so they keep reading, They're not going to tell you, look, all you have to do basically, stop sinning. You stop sinning and you can do your own Ruqya. You don't need me. But they don't tell them this. Maybe it's because of misunderstanding, or maybe because they want the money. Allahu A'lam. Or maybe they have the information, but they're reluctant to take it. So they don't really look into the issue of this, because if they look into the issue too much and see that evidence is for it from the experience, they see that, then there's no job for me. Yeah, there's no job for you. Really, the Raaqi's responsibility only should be just giving advice, really. Mainly thing is letting the patients do and their families do the Ruqya. The Raaqi should just be stepping in a little bit to give advice, really. Not really doing the Ruqya himself. The Raaqi is not special. The best Raaqi, as we'll see later on, is from the parents. Okay? All right. Number 2, this is for the safety of the, taking them to hospital. This is for the safety, for their safety, for your safety and your family's safety. Ignore the stigma. Meaning the stigma of it's a taboo thing. Oh, my son is in mental health hospital. Some patients, they don't want to put their son in there. You see? Some of them maybe will send them abroad. Because there's a problem, see, we can't control him here. What are we going to do? Send him to us over there. So they send him maybe abroad. No, keep them at home for a while until you call the ambulance and then take him to the hospital. This person needs to go to the hospital. Don't worry about the stigma. Forget this. This is about taking care of the patient. Don't keep such a patient in your house. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. You know what I do with patients like this? And sometimes while we're waiting for the ambulance to come, what I say sometimes, where are the knives? Get them all. Put all the knives up, put them somewhere. Weapons, if something could be used as a weapon, they have to be put somewhere. So sometimes the patients will get rid of all the knives and put them somewhere. Yeah, because we don't have the situation where he picks up the knife, he either stabs somebody else or stabs himself. And I remember somebody telling me that he saw somebody on the underground. He saw somebody on the underground, on the underground platform, had a knife, he's just stabbing the knife inside him like that, just doing that. Could it be, most likely for me, looking at that and the way the person described it to me, I said, that looks like a jinn case to me. Jinn maybe totally manifested, just grabbed the knife from wherever he had, maybe even like the shopping he had, maybe he went to buy some knives, and he just started stabbing himself on the platform like that, and then they had to close the whole station down, sadly. Yeah, so jinn can do that. They will stab you or stab themselves, you see. And it can even get worse than that. They can even they can abuse the children, sexually abuse the children as well. Rape someone in the house. You see? Sorry to say this, but it could be like the patient could actually rape his own mother. Possible. And it's obviously not the patient, it's the jinn. So the patients are going to be sinful. Any of these actions, he's not sinful. But I'm just saying that what's the possibility of you keeping the person in the house? Why are you keeping the person? Oh, I don't want the neighbors to say something that so-and-so, my son is in the hospital, mental hospital. So that's the reason you're keeping him in there. It's just dangerous. You see he's not in the right state, okay? So you're putting your family in risk, yourself at risk, and even the patient at risk as well. All because what the neighbors are going to say. They're going to laugh at us and say, my son is gone to the mental hospital. What you have to do here in this sort of situation, you will call the ambulance and describe to the operator the current condition of the patient, and basically explain to the patient that the patient is manic and uncontrollable. That's where you got to use that word manic, and you describe the uncontrollable. Because if you don't describe it properly, they're not going to think it's important. This is really important here. You must take this on here. If you just say, yeah, we're just having a problem, a gym problem, or you're not going to say gym problem. We're having a bit of a problem. It's not a bit of a problem. This guy is uncontrollable. He's manic and he's uncontrollable. We can't hold him down. We don't know what to do. We're in danger. Tell them you're in danger. Once they understand that you're in danger, they know what that is. They will call the ambulance and may even call the police. As I say in number 4 here, the operator may call the police for help as well. This is dangerous, you see. Number 5 here, the Raaqi's ruqya won't work now, so don't call one, or don't do ruqya treatment because of the sins of the patient. Here in this situation, leave off the ruqya. Leave off the ruqya here. And some people say, no, we need to hold the patient down and we need to read the ruqya on this patient. Not right now. Right now, we need to get this patient into the hospital. That's the best place for this person right now, because it's difficult for us and difficult for the family. The family can't hold on to this patient. And you got to understand some of the issue, the problem that patients, when the families, it's really heavy. It's heavy toll on the patients. The families looking after such patients and keeping guard of them. They can't sleep at night. You see, and people have tried this, but you see, this is not unworkable. This patient needs to go to the hospital. You can't be staying up all night with this patient. And then sometimes the gym takes over. And then the people can't control him because there's no men in the house, it's just women. It's a problem, you see. All of the men have gone to the mosque. So sometimes if that happens at Fajr time, the women go to the mosque and just the women are in the house with the brother. The sisters are trying to hold him, the mother's trying to hold the child down. It's not a child now, he's a man. It's difficult and chaos, you see. So the best place for this person would be to go to the mental health department of the hospitals, basically. Like I said, the operator, when you tell them how serious it is, they're going to see it's one of those situations. They will maybe call the police for this situation. So don't worry about ruqya treatment right now. Okay, don't worry about ruqya treatment now. Okay, get the patient to the hospital. Sadly, some Raaqis don't understand that it is sins that are causing this problem and not big and many jinn. Again, that point again. That's the situation we're in. Many Raaqis, again, they don't believe this is sins. They'll say no. What they will do with these sort of situations, say no, this is not, when they read ruqya, it doesn't work. This is a mental health case. Take him to the hospital. Good, take him to the hospital, but you should do ruqya and tell him to stop sins and then do the ruqya treatment. We need ruqya treatment along with the medical help from the doctors, you see. Not just dismiss it. And that's what I think, like I said, that's what I think has happened to our poor brother, Isa Suleiman, who did those attacks in Golders Green. He has not held help of, he's just probably been dismissed and they've probably been told that his case is not ruqya, it's not jinn, it is a medical health problem. And that's why maybe he's not getting better, or he was in the situation that he's in. What you can do here is on number 7, make a lot of dua for the patient and pay sadaqah with the intention of curing, because there is hadith regarding that issue, okay? That you can pay sadaqah to cure your ill, okay? Number 8, don't worry about your family member. Once you follow the doctor's advice and my advice here, then inshallah they will become normal and again, and they will leave the hospital. Yes, that's what it will be. Inshallah ta'ala. It happened to you many times. And like I said, I didn't know how important this talk was. So only when I spoke to my student, he said to me, I was in that situation. He said if he's been in 2 or 3 situations and he didn't know what to do. I said, what do you do in that situation? He said, I didn't know. So I realized that this talk is important. We can get them out of the hospital. Inshallah, they will come out. They will come out of the hospital. If you follow the doctor's advice, don't tell them to stop that medication. We need that as medication from the doctors, okay? And we need to do ruqya as well. But before we do that ruqya, we've got to work on the sins, you see. Right. Next point here. Patients are not speaking, eating, drinking, or sleeping at home as they are in some sort of like catatonic state. Again, also admit them to hospital, these sort of patients, okay? All right. So now, this can be caused by jinn, but not necessarily because of sins of the patient, since the jinn are not speaking or making noises. So in this sort of situation, you've got a patient, when you go and you see the patient, they're just quiet, lying down. And they're sort of like in a daze, they're not talking, they're not eating, they're not drinking. And they're just basically like that. People try to, hello, do you want some food? Do you want some food? They're just like that. They might look up once or twice like that, and they don't do like this. In that sort of situation, what we found, that person needs to go to the doctors, okay? What has basically happened there is the number two, I'm reading from number two, the jinn will sit somewhere in the head or have an effect on the brain, and that makes the patient seem to be in this sort of catatonic, that's what the doctors call it, catatonic state, that's what they call it. So the jinn has gone somewhere, sat somewhere. And this situation, then this one here, it's got nothing to do with sins, this particular case. It can be because of sins, that's why they got the original, like a punishment from Allah, that's why they got this. But it can happen to me. You know, it can happen to me. The jinn could go inside you and sit somewhere, and you'll be just like that, dazed. And you won't be able to communicate, like paralyzed sort of thing, you see, you know. They need to be taken to the hospital and put on a drip because they are not eating or drinking. You need to take them to the hospital. And sometimes the patients, families, this is the cases where the families are very reluctant to take them to the hospitals. Why? Because it's not, they're crazy, breaking things and doing, you know, knives and stuff, screaming and that. They're not. So they're thinking, it's all right, he's okay. We'll keep him here. He's normal. No, he's not eating or drinking. You're going to keep him here. What, is he eating anything? No, he's hardly eating anything. Not good. He needs to be put on a drip. I need to get some medication to get him out of that state. There is a medication which the doctors can give. If you look at number 4 here, they need to be given, from what I've seen, lorazepam or some similar medication to get him out of that state. We've seen that drug. When they give him that drug, the doctors, it's sort of the person comes back to reality. Now, what exactly is happening there? Well, Allah knows best. It might be that that drug goes somewhere in the brain and kind of dislodges or moves the jinn. Release the jinn, moves the jinn out of that place, and then the person is able to come back to his senses again and is able to eat and drink normally and speak normally. You see? Now, the doctors might not, number 5 here, the doctors might not want to give this medication, but if you tell them it has worked for another case, like my patient, you can even use my example, they might listen to you. So you can actually say, we've seen somebody who's in some sort of similar situation like this, we think lorazepam will be good for them or something else. You can talk to the doctor. Doctors are wonderful in this sense. They do listen to you. You know, they do listen to you and say, because they know that that's not harmful. We can give that drug, no problem. We've got that here. We can prescribe that. And if it works, we'll see. And that's how they are willing to try different drugs. For some, what they've found is that certain drugs work better with certain patients. And they'll try certain different regimes with different patients. So you can suggest it to them. You know, and there's no harm in suggesting that to them. They're not going to be offended by that. You see, you say you referred. I know there's one patient who had that this sort of problem here. It's sort of like it's not like it's this sort of catatonic sort of state, and this medication lorazepam did help them. So please, can you maybe prescribe that? And the doctor might agree with that. You see. Okay. Point here, number 6. You must treat all NHS staff with respect and listen to their advice. Don't just dismiss what they say, even if it is a jinn case. So even if it's a jinn case, yeah, don't just say, oh, we don't need to listen to them. No, you need to listen because we need their help. We need their help, yeah? Because we really need their help with such patients who are in a catatonic state. These patients in this sort of state, even the ones who've got the jinn, we know that the jinn is reacting and that. We need the doctor's help because they can give you certain drugs to cut off the waswas. You know, antipsychotic drugs and other drugs to give to stop the waswas, basically. And that lorazepam is also good for stopping panic attacks. You know, we need these drugs from the doctors. You see, so don't dismiss what they've got. Even if you, like I say, even if you know it's a jinn case, what the doctors have, it does help. Alhamdulillah. Next section here, we want to deal with how to deal with epileptic fits or seizures caused by jinn possession. Cases like this could be due to sins, but it also could be due to just a test from Allah. It might not have nothing to do with sins. Okay. So this can happen to pious Muslims or sinning Muslims or even a child. The jinn may speak or make noises during a fit episode. So when they're fitting, they're moving around the fitting. The jinn might speak and make noises and talk. You know, might do something. Okay, this is similar to sleeping, i.e. the jinn can speak when you are asleep or sleepwalk. And when this happens, it has nothing to do with sins. Yes, so what I've seen from experience, and I say in that article, how sins affect possessed Muslims, we've seen 2 scenarios where when the jinn starts speaking and that, it's got nothing to do with sins. One of them is when it's an epileptic, when they have fits, the jinn will speak. okay? And you could be a pious person, it can happen to a child. The jinn will speak. It's got nothing to do with sins here. The jinn is speaking and making noises, that's got nothing to do with sins. And the other situation is when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, all right, your soul will leave your body, okay? Obviously, your soul is still attached to the body, but the soul comes out, the jinn is left behind, the jinn can take over. And what can happen, the jinn can start speaking, all right? And start sleepwalking and start causing problems in the house. It can do this, you see? I remember we had a case where a child, a 4-year-old child, got out sleepwalking, running around the house, and the parents were telling me, yeah, the Saeed, he's saying words, F in this, F in that, F in this. He doesn't know this word, Saeed. What is it? He's never heard it, and he's, mother effing, mother effing, and all this. He's using these sort of words. What has he got this phrase from? This is not from his vocabulary. So we don't use these words. So we've not used these words. He's not watching anything. So what's happened? I said, that's the jinn there speaking, making that noises. You see, so I said, ignore it. Ignore that. Just make sure you do, let the child get up, read Raaqi in the morning for the child. And that's what they did. And then alhamdulillah, they got rid of that jinn in that child, from what I remember. But so it can happen that the jinn can speak. Yes, when you're even in pious people and in children, when you're sleeping and when you have a fit, when you have an epileptic fit, Okay, then we're going to go into some important advice for parents dealing with epileptic sort of patients. Number 1, do Ruqya treatment using the Relief Ruqya 4.0 intention below. Use surahs, use 7 surah Fatihas and then 7 pairs of surah Falaq and Nas, and keep doing this until you complete the required 30 minutes. Okay, so the intention, if you scroll down, you can see the intention for Relief Ruqya 4.0. That's the intention. Now, a lot of research went into this. I'm not going to go explain everything in here, but what you can do here, you just take that intention, what I mean by it, and you read on the patient with that intention. Okay? Because and then that should have an effect on the jinn and affect the jinn so we cover all of these sort of scenarios which the patient will be suffering from. So when I said to you earlier, the jinn, if they want to go up here, because they will do that, well, this Ruqya is going to deal with that. The jinn try to go in the body, well, it's going to do that. Jinn, what they do sometimes, they'll jump out and wait outside and still be connected to the patient. Well, this Ruqya is going to deal with that as well. All those sort of scenarios where the jinn's going to try and get away from it. We've put all of the intentions in, a lot of intentions. You've just got the summary here. But if you read that Ruqya on the patient, as Brother Saeed reads it on his patients, then you're fine. That's it, you've done it. We know this works because people don't even need to know all of the intentions. So sometimes I don't show them all of the intentions because there's no need to. Just read this how Brother Saeed reads it. I had one student of knowledge who was ill. I said to him, Saeed, I gave him this, and he said, oh, Saeed, I need to know what all those things are. You want to read it also? Okay, no problem, I'll give it to you. I gave him all the intentions. He read through them, he was happy with it, and he read it. So if you want to do that, no problem. You can get all of the intentions. I will give it to patients. I do give it to them. But if you want to know, you don't need to know all of the intentions. You could just read it as it is, and it works, alhamdulillah. Even myself, I don't remember all of the intentions. I can't remember all of the intentions here. But the intentions, they work. And they deal with this. They deal with all of the situations that the jinn could put you in, And you've got a note here. The fitting may actually start after the first Ruqya treatment session. So then obviously the jinn are causing it. In this case, continue with the Ruqya treatment. Yes. So as soon as you've got a patient there in front of you and you start the Ruqya treatment, and then you start getting the effects, then most likely what that situation is, it's his jinn causing epilepsy. Epilepsy this patient has, it's that, okay? So it's maybe the jinn causing that problem. If you look at number 2 here, even if the epilepsy is caused by jinn, the patient should continue taking their medication that has been prescribed to them by the physician, yes, by the doctor. They must carry on. Don't stop. Just think, it's a jinn case now, Saeed. We know it's jinn. What should we do with the medication? No, just carry on. There's nothing haram by taking the medication. Leave it. There's some benefits in these medications that they give you. Carry on taking the medication. Once the epilepsy improves with Ruqya treatment, the physician himself will reduce the amount of medication. Let the physicians or the doctors deal with that side of the treatment. The same rule applies to schizophrenia and bipolar patients. So somebody schizophrenic, you've got this, you've got schizophrenia, then we can, or bipolar, same sort of advice. Take on the medication. Let the doctors deal with that. You don't interfere with that situation. Don't start saying to the patient, oh, you don't need it. You've got, your case is jinn case. We need just this ruqya. We don't need to do anything. No, don't do that. Treat them. Treat them. Let the doctors treat them and don't stop that medication. Sadly, I've seen patients, people deciding to stop the medication. I tell patients, when they tell me, I want to stop the medication, I said, did the doctor tell you he's going to stop it? No, I said, let it go. Ask your doctor, talk to your doctor, let him reduce it. If you want to stop any of these medications, people should not just stop them. Because I have seen some cases where there is some sort of side effects because you've immediately just stopped the drug. And it's a problem. I think you have to gradually reduce this and talk to the doctors. Let them decide, because there's experience, they've got experience with dealing with these drugs. Don't just think you can do it yourself. Take how much you want, reduce how much you want, stop whenever you want. No, you've got to listen to the doctors. Go to the doctors and follow their advice, you see. And obviously, like I said earlier, you can give them advice regarding these medications and they will listen to you. In general, what I've seen, they've been very helpful and they listen to you. You see, when they told them, look, it's a bit hard, that this medication is causing constipation for my son or my daughter. Can you do something about that? They'll listen and they'll give you something maybe for the constipation, or they'll change the medication. Okay? All Muslims with epilepsy should try ruqya diagnosis before getting any serious brain surgery. Okay? So sadly, some Muslims want to start doing brain surgery, something to do with the brain, some sort of surgery. Before they do that, they should do ruqya treatment, ruqya diagnosis, find out what's exactly going on. Don't just have a part of the brain removed or something like that. In reality, your problem wasn't really something wrong with the brain. It was actually a jinn issue, you see. So you have to do ruqya treatment. I remember I was dealing with one patient, one of my patients. He had one of his nerves removed from the top of his arm up here all the way down to his thumb, I think it was. The doctor removed the nerve, one long nerve, he removed it. Afterward, we find out this problem, because he had a problem for a long time, we find that that problem was actually from the ruqya diagnosis is caused by the jinn. But by that time, the doctors had already removed it's a long scar he had as well. By that time, the doctors had already removed the nerve. You can't put the nerve back in there. That's gone. And I think he told me that he doesn't have the sort of full feeling in his hand now, because he removed the nerve, you see. So before you do any sort of drastic sort of medical treatment like that, surgery or removing something, removing an organ or whatever, or parts of your organ or whatever, do the ruqya diagnosis to find out what's going on, you see, before you do that. And the reason why you don't have to, the reason why it's our problem doing ruqya diagnosis, because there are absolutely no side effects from the ruqya. Ruqya is not dangerous, and some people sadly think ruqya is dangerous. You know, it's not dangerous. Nothing dangerous about ruqya. There's no side effects. And the doctors don't have any problem with you reading the Quran. They say, okay, it's fine. Read. They're not going to stop you reading ruqya, you see. So we should carry on doing ruqya treatment and not stop, really. If the ruqya causes an epileptic fit, then this is actually a good sign and not a side effect. So that I'll see that as a good sign. For me personally, when I see that happening, hey, this is good. This shows that there is some sort of thing there. We need to carry on. That's our sign from Allah that what we're doing is good. Carry on doing it. It's the same thing when patients say to me, Saeed, when I did started the ruqya treatment for sihr or whatever it is, he said, it seemed like everything was getting worse, Saeed. I said, no, that's the good sign. It shows that the ruqya is working, the jinn is trying to fight back. So you carry on doing it and then things will calm down. How do I know this? Because I experienced it myself. You know, I experienced it until one student of knowledge told me, so no, that's a good sign. I carry on. The jinn is just playing with you. Carry on doing your treatment. Don't stop your treatment. So when I started my treatment, it seemed like the waswas things were getting worse. Yeah, what's happened? The jinn is attacking me more, and it's increased its waswas. That's what's happened there. Doing that situation, carry on doing the ruqya. Don't stop. That's what you've got to do there, basically. So it basically means that the epilepsy has been caused by jinn, and therefore the ruqya treatment should be continued until this fit stops or gets reduced. So you should keep reading the ruqya. When you see that action, epilepsy sort of fit starts happening, carry on reading the ruqya with that intention, the relief ruqya 4.0. Keep reading on the patient until the reactions stop, basically, and the fit stops, basically. Hopefully, here it says here, and on seeing this change in the patient, the medical practitioners and doctors will hopefully cancel the brain surgery. Hopefully that will happen. if you keep up with your medical treatment, the ruqya treatment, the doctors will see there's improvement. Hey, it seems that your epilepsy is getting better. I don't think we need to do ruqya treatment. You see, we don't need to do drastics or brain surgery. We don't have to do any of that. You see. Number 4 here, while the patient is actually having that fit, you should follow the general advice and protocols that were given to you by the medical doctors. So consult one. So those things that the doctors tell you to do when a fit happens, follow them. I think they'll tell you maybe to lie the patient down, make sure that you hold their hands, and they give you certain things to do. Follow that advice of the doctors when that happens. You see, when they do a fit, while the patient is fitting, stop and restrain the jinn from attacking or harming the patient or others but do it gently. So when this happens, you can see sometimes the jinn is going to try to attack the patient, or you just gently restrain them. Stop this happening. Okay, don't let the patient hurt themselves. Okay, and you do that gently. The ruqya treatment should be done twice a day, morning and evening, for about 30 minutes each. So if you've got one of these patients who've got this epilepsy, which could be from jinn, then you need to do the ruqya for about 30 minutes in the day, in the morning and in the evening. Okay. And like it says here, probably it will cause a fit to occur, but you should continue until the 30 minutes are up, until the fit stops. So keep on reading. Even if it causes a fit, don't get reluctant. Oh no, I don't know what I'm doing here. No, carry on reading, because he has fits anyway. At least now you know when the fit's going to happen. It's happening during the ruqya, because during the day he just have a fit out of the blue, and you won't even know what's happening. So if you're able to deal with that sort of situation, carry on with the ruqya, because we've seen benefit in that. Carry on reading. Don't stop the ruqya. Inshallah ta'ala, it will get better. If the fitting stops and you have done 5 or 15 minutes of ruqya treatment, then you should continue until you do 30 minutes, even if another fit starts. So carry on doing your 30 minutes. Make sure you stick to the 30 minutes. Don't stop. Okay? Do not stop. Okay? If the patient starts fitting just before you have finished your 30 minutes, then you should continue until the fitting stops. But if you feel that you want to give the patient a rest from ruqya treatment, then you may stop the ruqya at any time and then wait for the fits to stop. Okay, so sometimes you might find this maybe a bit too much for my child, this ruqya treatment right now. I want to give him a bit of rest. There's no problem to do that. You can do that. Okay, if you feel, because the fit is quite, you can feel like the patient is suffering there with the fit. Okay, and you're worried about the patient, then you can stop a little bit. Okay, if you have any serious problems or fitting doesn't stop, then please consult a doctor. Yeah, that's what you have to do. Okay, but you're not doing anything problematic, and the doctor's not going to say to you did anything wrong if you read the Quran. I'm not going to really stop you doing that. I just did read the Quran. You see, we must remember that we can combine modern medicine with ruqya treatment. So don't be reluctant to call a doctor. Yeah, so don't be reluctant to call a doctor. Sadly, like I said, for some people, they don't want to call the doctor when they're dealing with situations like this, you see. Again here, there are no hard rules here. So each patient, each parent, as the Raaqi, must look at what he or she believes will be beneficial for the patient. And that may mean stopping the ruqya treatment early or actually not doing the ruqya treatment, and sometimes you might have to stop. In such a situation, you think maybe it's not right now. The patient is hungry, and you're supposed to do some ruqya. Well, wait. Let them have something to eat, maybe. Okay, and wait even after they've eaten. Wait for a little bit. Let the food go down. Wait a few hours, and then do the ruqya treatment on them. We must remember that the fits or the physical reactions for during ruqya treatment are our signs from Allah that the ruqya treatment is working, that the treatment is working. Yeah. So don't get depressed or sad that every time I read the ruqya on my child or my son or or my husband or whatever, they have a fit. Well, that's actually a good sign. It shows you that the ruqya is hitting something is happening. So you must carry on. Okay, you must carry on. Number 7 here. Whenever a random fit occurs, you should do ruqya treatment. You should stop ruqya treatment once the fit stops. So that happens. So that situation when the random out of the blue happens, you're in the bedroom with the child or before they sleep or whatever, random fit occurs, don't just stand there and let the fit happen. Read the Ruqya treatment on there. Use that Relief Ruqya 4.0, which we said earlier. Read the Ruqya treatment on the child. Don't, whenever they have this problem, read. Don't just leave them alone, you see, and just watch them having their fit, you know. Number 8 here, during a fit episode, don't speak or communicate with the jinn. We don't need the jinn's help. We only need others' help. Seeking the help from the jinn is a major shirk. So please keep away from talking to the jinn, as you may fall into seeking its help. You see, I remember one family, sadly, the jinn manifested, and it starts talking to them, saying, "Look, I won't get out of this patient until you do this, do that, and do this." And some of the patients, sadly, the family, they agreed to do some of those things. And some of those things that he was telling them to do was shirk. And they agreed to do these things. Maybe they didn't believe that it was shirk, but it's telling them to do certain things. Take this chicken or whatever and do this to it or whatever. Maybe they can't understand that they're doing shirk, but they are. You're slaughtering something other than Allah, you see, you know. So, and the jinn might use some words which are not very clear. I'm hungry. Slaughter a chicken for me. So you slaughter that chicken maybe, and and he'll tell you to do it with this, and next thing you know, you're not slaughtering with Allah's name, you're slaughtering with the jinn's name or something, you see. So they can confuse people as well, especially if you don't know this topic of shirk and tawheed properly, you're going to have a problem. So that's why it's always better, don't talk to them. Avoid talking to these things. You don't need to talk to them. And there's no benefit in talking to them. I don't need to talk to them. Like I said to you earlier at the beginning of this talk, I just do Ruqya diagnosis, get all the information I need about this jinn world, and if I need to do even further, I do specific diagnosis to get the information. I don't need to talk to jinn. Let's see. During a fit or seizure, try and call out the patient's name and tell them to fight and resist, and try their best to regain control. This fighting may become easier as the jinn gets weakens. So you're with your patient, then you call their name out, Abdullah, come out of it, come, try, fight. You can tell them to try to fight out of it, get out of it, basically. There's nothing wrong with doing that, you see. Try to tell them to get out of that situation, you see. Getting them out of that situation, and if they get out of that situation, obviously it's good. It shows you that the jinn is weakening, you see. And the ruqya is actually helping them. Number 10 here, make sure the patient does the morning evening adhkar, okay? Morning evening adhkar, the protection basically. If they are old enough to do that, because some children, they can't do it. So, so you have to sort of, you need to do that, you do. You can't do obviously that on their behalf, but they can do limited number of some things they can. So some children, they can read Ayatul Kursi and they read the Quds. So let them to do that then. They can read Ayatul Kursi, at least some children, you can do that. Let them do that, then they can read the Quds. That will be enough for them, inshallah ta'ala, Parents should read on their children below puberty the well-known dhikr for the children's protection that the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam read on his grandchildren, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein, you see. That's what they should read, and it's in Hisn Muslim, what to put the children into protection, that dua, which is well known in Hisn Muslim, putting your, basically, U'idukuma, the dua which starts off with that, U'idukuma, Kalimatillahi Tamma. That dua you read, put your hand on your top of the child's head, one of them or both of them if you got, and then you read that dua. And obviously you have to basically change the pronouns, the Arabic pronouns when you're dealing with that. There is, if you want the breakdown of that, how to use that dua, if you go to my article, it's my website, same one this document is on. I didn't put it here, but it's called Family Diagnosis and Treatment Notes. In there, you'll see a breakdown of that dua and how to actually read the dua on your children, you see. So you can go to that article for more information regarding that issue. And number 11 here, don't let the shaitan fool you and convince you that ruqya treatment is detrimental to your child's or the patient. That's what he's going to try and tell you, try to make you think it's like that. But you've got to ignore that. Initially, the fits may get worse because the jinn is trying to fight back, but you should continue with the ruqya treatment and inshallah fits will reduce. Yes, so don't get deceived by the jinn and shayateen, They're saying, this situation, look, it's getting worse, So what happened to me is that when I started my own treatment back in the day when I was in, it seems that it's getting worse, but in reality it's getting better. This is a good sign. Carry on with the treatment. Don't stop. Number 12 here, beware of sins, because sins delay the cure. Again, sins delay the cure. So we have to be careful of sins. If the child is hit puberty, then you have to tell them to stop sinning and make sure they do their prayers. Okay. Both the patient and the parent as a Raaqi need to avoid sins. Yes. What's something which we have noticed that sometimes we emphasize the issue with the patient not sinning, we forget about the patient. I mean, the parent, the Raaqi has to be careful as well of sins. So you make sure when you're reading your child that you stop your sinning. I remember dealing with one case where the father calls me and says, Saeed, the kid's got worse. And then I said, oh, okay. So I knew that it's kids below puberty. Said, the problem is not the kid. They said, the Raaqi is not working, Saeed. I don't know what to do with the kid. Said, have you stopped your sin? He said, nah, I haven't stopped, Saeed. I said, khalas, that's your problem, brother. As soon as he stopped the sin he was doing, reads on the child then, he said, the Raaqi is working outside. I said, yeah, because of you, because of your sin. That's what's happened there, brother. You know, you've got to stop sinning. So sins are a big deal. Sins are a big deal. We've got to stop sinning, you see. So number 13 here, pay sadaqah on behalf of the patient. Okay. If they are a child with the intention of asking Allah to cure the patient through the payment of sadaqah, yeah. If the patient is old enough, then let them also pay sadaqah themselves. Okay, so yeah, because we know in hadith, but sadaqah, use sadaqah to cure the ill. Okay. Right. Well, let's move on to the next section. Right. Take it as if the patient has jinn once they have been sectioned. So once they've been sectioned, okay, and number one here, being sectioned is a legal medical term that applies to mental health patients. So once the doctor said we're sectioning this patient, or we're going to put him, he's basically sectioned. It means that's a medical term which they use. They're under that doctor's care and they cannot be released from the hospital, okay, until the doctor is happy with their treatment, because these patients are a danger to themselves and a danger to society. So they've got to keep them inside, basically. All right. So once the doctor has actually sectioned the patient, all right, what you have to do here, just take it as a jinn. It's the case of jinn, just to make things easier. It might not be jinn. It might not be jinn. But what I've done when I'm dealing with situations like, and it's all the cases I've dealt with, it has ended up being jinn. All the cases of being somebody who's been sectioned, it has ended up being jinn related. It's not been anything else. Okay, it's not been anything else. So if they are sectioned, take it as if they have jinn. We will confirm once we do ruqya diagnosis. That's what we will do. But you, for yourself, how are you going to deal with this? Take it as jinn. And what does that mean? It means that you're going to be given that advice regarding sins. Stop sinning. That's what you're going to do. You're going to talk about stop sinning. That's what you're going to do, basically. Number 3 here, being sectioned has been a good thing in my experience, in my cases I've dealt with. Hence, I have no problem with doctors sectioning patients. That's my experience of it. I've seen it as a good thing. When they've done that and they put that person under that doctor's care who sectioned them, it's been good for my patients. So they give them certain attention, they give them certain drugs, certain medical treatments, okay? And it helps me deal with the waswas of the jinn, because sometimes if we don't have those drugs, if I don't have those antipsychotic drugs and these other drugs that they use, okay, to stop these drugs help against the jinn. Like I said, certain drugs, they dislodge the jinn from certain areas of the brain and they stop waswas. So you find that the patient can listen to you more, and you can find that the patient's actually there. Yeah, when you look at them, when they've given them those drugs, especially sometimes injections, okay, you can tell now when I'm talking to the patient there, that's the patient now. Yes, he looks drowsy, he looks tired, but because they've given him those drugs, okay, the jinn is having it. It's difficult for the jinn to take over. The jinn doesn't have that ability to do it. You see. So subhanAllah. So there's a lot of benefits of letting the patients get sectioned. You see. So being sectioned, especially number 4, I'm reading from number 4 here, especially good for patients who are causing chaos and havoc, and the family can't control them, or they can't protect themselves from the patient. So it's very difficult. When that sort of, they're the best ones to obviously being sectioned helps those sort of situations. You know, like I said to you earlier, with the cases of people breaking things up, they might want to take knives, might want to harm themselves or harm other people. You know, or even people outside they will harm, cause problems outside. You see. Those cases, you find that when they're sectioned, they're given those drugs to calm them down. They're able to get some sleep because prior to that, they may be not sleeping. That's one of the signs. Actually, I forgot. Patients not sleeping, so they're up all day. That's one of the symptoms I forgot to mention. Actually, so they don't sleep. So the patient's been up. Well, did you sleep last night? No. And then the next day, he's not slept. You slept? No. Third day, have you slept? So no. And this is where he's getting a bit drowsy. He's getting a bit, he's not well. You can see he's not well. When he tells you the first night he's hasn't slept all night, and you can see it's like, what were you doing? You working? Were you worried about something like that? It's nothing to do with that. He said, no, just go to sleep. I was just simple like, what were you thinking of? All right. In that situation, from my experience, what I would say to that person, you fall into any sins straight away. I was saying, you've got any sins? Okay, be careful. All right. Did you deliberately want to stay up? No, I was trying to go to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. This is a problem. All right. Then I'll start talking about sins because I still got the patient with me. I can talk to him now. You doing any sins? Do Toba, right? Yeah, I'm doing fullness. I'm still doing that. I'm still smoking. You've got to stop, brother. You've got to stop. I can talk to him now before it gets worse. You see, so sleeping is an issue. Once you see a patient's not sleeping, give them that advice that they need to get rid of sins first of all. That's the first thing that you need to tell them. You see. Okay, number 5 here. Taking it as a jinn case until the Raaqi diagnosis will help you do the treatments that I will recommend. So that's the reason I want you to take it as a jinn case. So once you take it as a jinn case, it's been sectioned now. Okay, just take it as a jinn case. We don't know yet. It might not be a jinn case. It might be something else. But it might be the other case. Let's just take it as a jinn case because we can't do the next treatments on him without taking it as a jinn case. Because you won't have the niyyah then when you're reading as if it is a jinn case, you see. If it turns out not to be a jinn case, then you haven't done anything haram. But that is what you are. That's what you suspected. You suspected it was jinn case. You're not done anything haram by thinking it was jinn case. You're not gonna. Allah not going to punish you for that or consider you to be you've done something haram. Because all of the treatments I'm going to talk about are permissible to do. Okay, they're all permissible to do basically. Let's move on to the next section here. Okay, why are Muslims vulnerable to serious jinn possession? This question gets asked a lot, you see. It's asked a lot, Number 1 here, Iblis and his army want us to join them in hell. That's what it is. So they hate us. They're after the Muslims, And to be honest, they don't really care. So once they know you're a Muslim, doesn't matter what kind of Muslim you are, all right? Once you know that you're a Muslim, they're after you. He wants you to join them in hell. You see, he knows he's going to hell and he wants to take you with him. Okay. 2, the work of Iblis on the non-Muslims is working. So he concentrates on the Muslims. Yeah, his work on the non-Muslims is working. They're not Muslims yet. So he ignores them and he concentrates on you. And some Muslims can't believe that Iblis actually affects us normal Muslims as well. The non-scholars. Yes, he comes to us. Non-scholars. People, if you're a good Muslim, mu'min, you're not doing major sins and that. He's giving you waswas, he's affecting you. How does he actually do it? How is he able to give waswas to all of these people at the same time? He's able to do it. He does it. I used to think back in the day, before I knew too much about Raaqi and what his abilities were, I thought that he'll come to you personally, going to individual and giving you waswas or something like this. And the Qareen is the one which gives most of them waswas. No. He's able to somehow, many people all at the same time, probably how he's doing it is connected to him. His networks maybe to connect to pathways, connects to the people and give them specific waswas regarding certain things. So he even affects us, the normal Muslims, non-scholars. He will affect us, And we shouldn't think that, why would he be after me? I'm not really somebody special. No, for him, you are special. You are Muslim, mu'min, who is basically not doing what I mean by that is somebody who's not doing the major sins. And he's not continuously doing the same minor sins. Just on that fact, he's after you. You're a problem for him. He needs to deal with you. Okay? And if his other jinns can't deal with you, okay, then he himself will come involved as well. Okay? He will get involved, okay? Number 3 here, he gives special attention to practicing pious Muslims. Those not committing major sins, to get them to slip up. That's what he does. He's got to get you to follow him into the hellfire. So he will keep giving you waswas, especially the pious ones, to basically mess you up. That's what he wants you to do. That's what he wants to do, you see. Number 4, many Muslims are possessed, but they just don't know about it. Yes, that's what I believe. Going from my experience and seeing what I went through for a long time with having jinn possession, I mean, if you go back, I think, yes, alhamdulillah, from the mercy of Allah, I was doing major sins, but I was possessed. And I was in denial that I was possessed. I didn't, even when I started my ruqyah, I couldn't believe that I was possessed. How can I be possessed? It's impossible. I'm not really doing major sins. I'm not doing something really haram. How can I be? Sins and possession, when the jinn goes inside, that can only be for people who got weak iman. That's what I thought as well. That's what I believe. So I was in denial for some time until I came to a point where I realized, no, I've got jinn. This is what this problem is. And once I started having that understanding, then my situation got better. It got better, alhamdulillah, you know. Certain organizations actively use sihr and jinn possession to try to make Muslims leave Islam or do extremist actions. They will call it mind controls. And we talked about this earlier when grooming. So that's what they do. So that's why Iblis's army, they do these things. Okay. And some people, these organizations, they'll call it mind control. That kind of hypnosis they'll do on you. And the person will do things, sadly, you know. Something haram, they will do. It's extremist actions, they will do that. Number 6, if you are seeking knowledge or become a student of knowledge at an Islamic institution, whether online or on campus, then you are vulnerable to jinn possession because Iblis doesn't want us to produce scholars. He doesn't want that knowledge. So you find that a lot of students of knowledge, and I've dealt with students of knowledge in Yemen, a lot of them have got jinn possession because they've traveled from their homes, they're serious about gaining knowledge. What have they got issues with? Jinn and that. Yes, some of the cases the jinn is not speaking that because they've got good iman, but the jinn are still there, stopping them read Quran, doing their hifd and doing other things. He doesn't want scholars. So once you start on this path of trying to become a scholar, you know what? I think it's a good thing if I try to get knowledge, can help the Muslims, and my relationship with Allah, and I need to become a scholar. I've got to try and get knowledge. You have that niyyah, he's coming after you. He will find out about the niyyah, he'll give you special attention, depending on how strong that niyyah is. If you're doing it for money, fame, he doesn't have to worry. The Quran will do with it. But if you're not, and you're serious about it, he himself will come personally to give you the waswas for you. Yes, Iblis will come for you personally. Now, some students, number 7 here, some students of knowledge and scholars won't feel the effects of the jinn possession because of their strong iman. Because they've got strong iman, it's like he doesn't feel anything. Maybe he had 1 million inside him, doesn't know. Because of his strong iman. But they will make him do certain things, maybe. Make him make certain mistakes, you know, certain issues, okay? With his family. Some issue will happen, and he can't understand why I don't know why I've got that problem. You know, he's having difficulty in getting up for Fajr. That's one of the signs. So if you're pious in that, one of the signs we've seen for pious Muslims, what they have is that Fajr has become like a bit of burden on them. And when you tell them, have you got any sins? Well, maybe the sins is doing this. That's why you've got this issue. And then they say, I've got no sins. That's your sign that maybe there's jinn there or something is there. So what you do, so you go on all most of your life, Fajr is easy. Some people, like we know, and this is from experience, we know for some people, they don't even set the alarm. Or sometimes they forget to set the alarm, but they get up themselves. Allah gets them up. Tawfiq. Allah helps them get up because their body's so used to praying Fajr and that, they get up. And the same thing with Tahajjud, they get up for that. They know their body's ready for it. It needs it. Okay? But then they start having a problem with it. So what's going on here? Then he might say to you, yeah, I think I fall into sins. Okay, but why are you falling into sins? Usually you don't fall into sins. Okay, yes, and that's one fine. You find the sins maybe stop you getting up for tahajjud and that. What's happened here? Okay, what's causing you to do that sin? That's what you need to ask. You got the sin. Okay, what's causing it? It's with the shaitan. Yeah, okay, is it a possession jinn? Find out. Find out. Maybe it could be even your qareen that has become a spiritual disease. And that's another thing which I never knew. Let's say, if you asked me this question 3 years ago, no, 3, maybe 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago, I would have denied it. And I think the last talk I gave here in Watchtower, I remember one of the sheikhs, he asked me the question, and it's recorded. It's one of the talks I've got on my YouTube channel. Can the qareen become a spiritual disease? And I said, no, qareen can't become a spiritual disease. And in reality, it can be. We've seen it from experience. I didn't believe this. I didn't believe this. So the qareen, Once we had all the intentions, we blocked all of the ways of the jinn, what happened? Iblis influenced the Qur'an to do more than what it's supposed to do and start attacking the patient. So the Qur'an became like a possessing jinn and started doing things, you see, you know? So you can have that problem. So if you're not getting up for Fajr, the problem you find the difficulty, it could be the sign that, hey, they'll agree, maybe, okay, maybe I fall into some sort of sin. Okay, but is there something causing that problem? So you might have two issues here. Some sin caused it. Okay, he'll agree with you that we're talking about the biased Muslim. He'll tell you, yeah, recently I started falling into a sin. That's why maybe I'm not doing my tahajjud. Okay, but it could be a jinn possession or Qur'an become a spiritual disease. That's what's actually caused the problem. Another situation could be that he doesn't have any sins. So when you try to identify any sins, there's no sins there. You can't really find any sins. But what it is, it's just become a burden for him to get up. It's very difficult to get up. And when they do get up for Fajr, when they get up for just find it, I'm finding it very difficult. Remember, person's got no sins, but he's finding it very difficult to get up, you know. So I don't see him difficult to open the eyes. And you tell him, okay, at that time, say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, or make the adhan. At that time, when they say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, or they start making the adhan, Allahu Akbar, it sort of like goes away from them, that state, and then they feel like, hey, I feel like normal again. There's some jinn there, brother. There's some awesome effects of the jinn. Maybe could be internal, could be external. Jinn attacking you from the external thing. You see? So that's a sign. You see? And sadly, many of the pious who've got strong iman, they're just unaware of these things. They're unaware of the effects of jinn possession. Like I said, they're like me in the sense that I thought only jinn possession affects weak Muslims, people who are doing sins. And in reality, it's not like that. It can affect the pious Muslims. In fact, I would say Iblis is more determined to do with the pious Muslims more than with the weak Muslims. Him and his special army he's got, you know, his generals, they deal with, and he'll send ifrit to certain people. They deal with the pious Muslims. That's what they're after, the scholars and that. They're after these people, you see? So they need to check themselves for jinn possession if they have these sort of problems. If they have, especially that problem for Fajr. In order to see if they have jinn possession, they must do ruqya diagnosis. That's what they need to do. They need the ruqya on themselves. That's what they need to do. If they don't believe in ruqya diagnosis, some of them, sadly, some of the brothers, they might not believe in ruqya diagnosis. So what do you say to them? Okay, just read ruqya yourself for any problem that you might have. Or just jinn, read for ruqya. Read the treatment on yourself. So I start reading the treatment on themselves. They start reacting. You could tell me, there's a problem. What do you mean there's a problem? Did you react to the ruqya, brother? He said, yes. Khalas, there's a problem, brother. You shouldn't be reacting to ruqya. The very fact that you reacted to ruqya shows you that the problem, you need to do diagnosis now. You need to find out what's going on. Because initially, they might not agree with you to do ruqya diagnosis. Why do I need to check for jinn for? I don't have jinn. I'm okay. And you might find some brothers who are pious. You tell them, I was in that situation. When you tell them, when you tell them to do the ruqya on themselves, they'll read the ruqya on themselves. I'm going to use the Quran here, but they'll use the ruqya. They'll read ruqya themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, Saeed, there's nothing there. And they read maybe 15 minutes. I told you, I said I've got nothing. I said, did you want Allah's help? Did you want to find out if there was some jinn inside you? No, not really, because I don't think there's anything there. I said, khalas, that ruqya is not going to work because you don't want it, brother. It's not going to work. So somebody could be pious, but there might be something there. It doesn't come out. Why doesn't it come out? Because he himself is not asking the help from Allah to make the reaction in your body. Show me if there's jinn. If I've got jinn, Ya Rabbi. Show me if I've got jinn. He didn't make that. He doesn't want to make that intention, you see. See? Likewise, you find that sometimes the sisters, what the sisters usually have is that they're too scared to find that they've got jinn. So when they don't have that problem of, they don't have jinn, they have a problem of, I'm too scared to find out I've got jinn. No. And that might be caused because of the videos they see of those poor sisters, a lot of them, which I don't agree with, showing the effects of the jinn possession on sisters, where the jinn is screaming and making noises and that, you see. I don't agree with that, really. It's better not to show that to Muslims because they get scared. Muslims get scared. You can keep that for certain situations, and you, not on YouTube, but for training Raaqis and stuff like showing it to certain people. Yes, I agree with that because you've got to show people how to deal with this situation. But if you're for entertainment, this is not entertainment, man. Really, you see. I don't think it's important. By doing it, just releasing videos like that, then it has an effect on people. It doesn't affect the people. Well, that's my opinion. Some people might not agree. No, they need this for educational purpose. Okay, fine. If you think it's for educational purpose, maybe Allah would reward you for that thing. In my opinion, I think we should stop that, because this is what's causing the problem for sisters. They don't want to do ruqyah themselves because they're too scared. They don't want to see that's going to happen to me. What I saw on that YouTube channel, that sister with the niqab throwing and screaming their head off, that's what's going to happen to me. So when they do the ruqyah, they don't really want to show me if I've got jinn possession. They don't do that, you see, because they're scared of that jinn coming up and speaking. But what you got to tell those sisters at that time, you got to tell them, look, sister, no jinn is going to speak or make noises. If you yourself have got no sins, it's not going to happen. So don't worry. Okay, do the ruqyah yourself. Dave, what time is the adhan? What time are we going to pray Asr? 6:30. 6:30, Jum'ah 6:30, right? Yeah. When you doing the adhan? 6:15. 6:15. Okay, all right. So we might have to obviously take a break. There's still quite a bit to go, isn't there? Is it okay if we continue after the salah? Or is you won't be able to do that? Yeah. No, you won't be able to do that, huh? Right. Okay.
Maybe we can plan some other day online, or if you are not available, we can do online.
Continue online, maybe, yeah? Yeah, okay. Okay.
We have only completed half of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just realized, you see, subhanAllah. Right. What we could do probably, yes, we can do half of it here like this, and then I can finish on my YouTube channel. So we can have half here, and the rest of the half will be, I can finish it off on the YouTube channel maybe. That's what we can do, inshallah ta'ala.
What the brother suggesting is you can do the rest online via this masjid.
Oh, really? By this masjid we can do like this? Oh, I can find, we can do that then. Yeah, okay. I can do that. We can do that, inshallah ta'ala. Right. Brilliant. And when we would do that, we'll talk about that afterwards. You're right, okay. Brilliant. All right, fine. So let's just finish this off. So I've got until about 6:15 then, yes? 6:15, okay. All right. So about 15 minutes left. All right. I can't find where I am now. I've lost where I was. Okay. What was I on? Was I take it as if the patient's been sectioned, okay? Why the Muslims have one? That's what I'm on, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. I've just finished that bit, yep. So my section is now, how to differentiate between a jinn case and a medical case. I think. Right, yeah. So basically, the section we're on here, how to differentiate between a jinn case and a medical case. Number one, we must admit that not every case is jinn. Yeah, we have to admit that, okay? Not every case is jinn. It could be medical case. It could be a medical case. We have to admit that not everything is going to be jinn. We have to understand that we don't blame everything on jinn. We'll just wait, let's see what the case is. Might not be jinn, might be something else. Maybe he took some drug or something. That's what's caused this problem, damaged the brain somehow, you see. But I have to admit that every case of schizophrenia and bipolarism that I have dealt with was a jinn case. That's just my experience. Other people might have another experience. But all my cases I've dealt with, schizophrenia and bipolarism, it is all, all the cases I've dealt with, jinn. Okay. Number two, just like the organs, the brain can become diseased. Yeah, I believe this. I mean, the brain is just like another organ. So just like the heart gets heart disease, we've got problems with the brain, nerves, issues, problems in the brain. It's going to get diseased. So it might need medical help there. You see. Number three, Ruqyah diagnosis is the way we differentiate between the two cases, and I will demonstrate that how it is done later in this subject. So later on. Maybe when we go online, we'll show you how to do that differentiation, how to do that Ruqyah diagnosis, how to work out, because that's what we're going to use to differentiate the case. And that's the only thing you can use. That's the only thing you can use to differentiate between, is it a jinn case or not a jinn case? We must do Ruqyah treatment. We must do Ruqyah diagnosis. That's how we do it. Okay, that's the key of differentiate between the two. Yeah, so this little point here, but the Qatari case where I was dealing with when I was in Qatar, Sudanese sister, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia. So I was working with a consultant psychiatrist in Qatar, and then he told me, Saeed, my colleague has diagnosed this patient with schizophrenia. Okay, so remember, he's a doctor, consultant psychiatrist. Okay, so and he says to me, look, I want you to read on this person and let me see if it is that case, that is what it is, schizophrenia. So I said, "Hi, take him to the house." So I went to that house, and then I start reading on that patient. Okay. And then immediately we have let's say after just reading 7 Fatihas, the jinn manifests itself straight away. And it's quite a clear manifestation of the jinn. Yes, I'm here. So we know it's clearly it's not the woman's voice, it's not the person, it's not that sister's voice, because I spoke to her. We know it's the jinn. The family know it as well, because I remember seeing the father's face, shocked like that, looking like that from the back in the corner. He's shocked. That's his daughter. It's not his daughter, it's the jinn. And then I started speaking to the jinn and said, "Okay, you need to get out and leave this body." Immediately what the jinn says to me, "I came through Ain. That's how I came into this body." And I said, "You didn't come through Ain, because I'm reading for sihr here. How can you be Ain when I'm reading for sihr?" So then the jinn didn't speak anymore, didn't talk about that anymore. So I just said, "You got to get out." You see, then I talked to the family afterwards. See, it's a situation of, it's not schizophrenia here. She's got jinn, and that's what's the problem here. Obviously you've got to give her that the advice, stopping sins. That's what's caused this problem. They need to stop sins. Right. The next point here, number 5, ruqya reactions are a gift from Allah to help us against Iblis and his army. Yeah, these ruqya reactions are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us. Just like the dreams, true dreams are from Allah to help us, ruqya reactions are from Allah. When you read the ruqya correctly, according to the sunnah, you do the ruqya properly, these ruqya reactions are from Allah, because Allah is making these ruqya reactions. Allah makes these ruqya reactions and it help you to do diagnosis. So you get the information that you need to help you deal with Iblis and his army. Imagine if we didn't have ruqya reactions, didn't have diagnosis, we would be lost. We wouldn't know what's going on here, really. This person, what's going on? He'll be all over us. But alhamdulillah, for ruqya diagnosis, we can get all the information about Iblis and his army by reading the ruqya diagnosis on the patient. Okay. In order to know if you are possessed, set up your reference point, then use the intention and repeat. Use the intention below here and repeat Surah Al-Nas, the last ayah. So if you want to know if you're possessed, look, I'm reading from number 6 here. All right. You read Surah. You set your reference point, which is basically you relax your body and just get your current state, how you are right now. Okay, without doing ruqya, you just feel your body. Close your eyes. The reason you've got to close your eyes is that sometimes you actually see visions. Okay, you see visions of the sihr or whatever. You will see visions of what's happened to you. Sometimes patients will see visions of the person who's giving them ayn, looking at them like that. I remember when I did that ruqya myself, I remember seeing somebody looking like that, and I saw that image maybe 20 years ago. So, I know that. I remember that. And then I remember, that's what it was. So that person gave me hasad, and So you'll see that. That's why you have to close your eyes. And the other reason you have to close your eyes, you might have a reaction. The only reaction that you get is that your eyelids start flickering around. That's the only reaction you have. So the only reaction that you might have is the eyes flickering around, or you might even see visions. That's it. So you have to close. That's the reason you have to close your eyes, and that's why you need to set your reference point. And the reference point, why you need it is because you're going to make the comparisons. Meaning, before you start the ruqya, you're feeling normal like this. So you'll stay like there for 2 to 3 minutes. So now I've got a reference point. Okay, this is how I am normally. Now read the ruqya myself, and you read the ruqya, and then if you see any reactions, something happening to you, well, you say, okay, was that a reaction? Okay, did I have that at the reference point before I started the ruqya? If you didn't, then you know that's a reaction, you see. And what you will do here, you read the ruqya, you read Surah Nas. If you know your possession, get your reference point. Read Surah Nas, come to the last ayah, mina jinnati wan nas, and you keep repeating that ayah. All right. And if you start getting reactions, then you know you've got jinn possession. And you read it with that intention there. Or show me if I have jinn possession according to your knowledge. That's what you would do. Okay, number 7 here. The issue of ruqya diagnosis is a known fact amongst the Raaqis. Yes, the Raaqis generally, they know this ruqya diagnosis. They generally, some do it differently, but they generally know that these reactions are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know this. So some of them will read their eyes of sihr on you. Okay, and if you start reacting to that, they will say you got sihr. That's how we do it, basically. Okay, we know the reactions are from Allah. The Quran has its effects on spiritual diseases, but if you are not in the field, then you really cannot comment and you shouldn't really listen and say that ruqya diagnosis is bid'ah. Yes, I've got people sometimes commenting, they don't know really much about ruqya. And really, if you don't know much about this topic, you shouldn't really be talking about it. You see, if you don't know too much, we're saying dismissing what some people are doing and that. So ruqya diagnosis, I need to know if I've got jinn or not. And if you dismiss ruqya diagnosis, do you know anything about ruqya? Have you read ruqya on somebody? I know people sometimes they never read ruqya on anybody, yet they still tell you that this is not jinn case, it's not a jinn. This is something else. We don't know what it is. I said, do you know how to do ruqya diagnosis? He says, no. Do you know how to actually diagnose jinn? No. Then how can you say it's not jinn case? You've never done ruqya diagnosis. You don't know how to join jinn, you don't know how to diagnose jinn possession. Then how can you say it's a jinn case then? Yeah. Just because somebody speaks and gives Islamic talks, it doesn't mean that you understand ruqya deeply, especially ruqya diagnosis. This is similar to dream interpretation. Not all scholars can interpret dreams. Yes, so you find that sometimes some scholars, they don't know too much about dream interpretation. You can't go to everybody about your dream interpretation. I only go to certain people for the dream. Actually, one scholar I only go for my dream interpretation. One person. Okay, I only know one person who does it properly. So there's not many people, scholars who know how to do it. Because as that sheikh says to me, what did he say? It's like a fatwa sign I'm giving you. That's what he says to me. When I give you the interpret your dream, it's like a fatwa. I'm giving you a fatwa. That's what he said to me. I said, really? He said, yes, I'm giving you a fatwa. Okay, so not all scholars can do it. So you have to be careful who you go to, you see. So don't be surprised if some people don't know too much about ruqya and diagnosis, and if somebody's got jinn. It's not his field, so don't expect him to answer your questions on this field. This field is like medicine. We don't expect our doctors or nurses to be experts in Islamic law for us to take their opinion regarding medical issues. So when the doctor tells us something about you've got this illness and that illness, we don't say, oh, doctor, do you know usul fiqh? Do you know Arabic very well? Do you know this? We don't ask them this question. We take that advice and implement it, don't we? It's the same thing with this field. Sometimes you find that some people, maybe they don't have too much knowledge on the other fields. But in this field, they're quite competent in this. And I myself take some knowledge from certain Raaqis because they've got something in the field. They understand something. So I take knowledge from them. Okay? They might not be scholars in other fields, but I know he knows this topic. So I'll take that knowledge from him, you see, and I learn from them. You see? Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I have seen Islamic speakers talk and say the things like 90% of so-called jinn cases are not, in fact, jinn cases. Okay, that's a side effect. And if the speaker doesn't know how to diagnose jinn cases, how can he really say this? How can he claim this? So you find some people saying, we hear talks like where they say 90% of the jinn cases are not jinn cases. We'll say, first of all, does he know how to diagnose jinn? He doesn't know how to diagnose, then how can he say it then? If you don't know how to diagnose jinn, how can you actually say that 90% of the cases are not jinn? You see? It doesn't make sense. Now, and I only mention, what is it, 0.7, 8, 9, 10 guidance scholars, because I don't want you to disregard or dismiss my advice. That's the only reason I'm saying this. Yeah. Yes, I'm not a scholar. I'm not, I don't have any knowledge in all the other fields. But on this field, I know stuff. I myself was possessed. So just take me like a medical doctor giving you advice. You take advice from the doctor, isn't it? When he's giving you this pain, you take this tablet, take this, take that. You don't expect the doctor to be expert Arabic. He must know how to do this. He must be the imam of the masjid. He must be a sheikh. No, we take it from them. Even non-Muslim doctor, we take it from them. So I'm only saying this for you so you don't dismiss the advice. I don't have to be a sheikh or the imam of the masjid to give you this advice regarding the jinn. I had jinn possession myself. So when you listen to my advice, you take the advice, because it's just like how you take the advice from the non-Muslim doctor, you take it from them. So if you're willing to take it from the non-Muslim doctor, why don't you take it from me? When I'm telling you some good things about the jinn, you see. And like I said here, it's not to boast or belittle scholars. I'm not saying this to belittle scholars. Some scholars, they know about ruqya, some scholars don't. Just like dream interpretation. Some scholars know about dream interpretation, other scholars don't. Like I said to you, I only go to one scholar regarding dream interpretation. The others I don't go to because I know they don't know it properly, and he does. You see? And he's the only one who I know talks about it. In fact, I've got one of his books in Arabic. And that's why I go to him, because I know he's a specialist in the field. He's got a book in Arabic which I read, and that's why I go to him, you see. So my advice here is about saving lives and stopping the jinn from causing maybe an apparent suicide, because that's what would happen. You will have somebody, maybe they'll kill themselves or something will happen, okay? And then we want to avoid that situation. That can happen. If you don't take my advice and you just dismiss it, he's not sheikh. Yes, I'm not sheikh, but I'm giving you important advice, just like you take the advice of the doctor. Take my advice, because you might be saving your family's life here when I tell you certain things, you see. Number 12 here, the ruqya diagnosis results are like dreams. So we can't use them in Islamic courts. You shouldn't say so and so is a sahir according to your ruqya diagnosis on social media. Yeah. So if you do your ruqya diagnosis and you find that so and so is a sahir, he did sihr on you. Because sometimes some people you do the ruqya on them and they will see somebody making the ta'weed, they're doing the same. Oh my God. You're reading the ruqya on them and they'll tell you, yes, I saw. What did you see? I saw so and so doing this. So really? Oh, that's funny. Okay, let me read. You read ruqya on them again with that intention. I want to show us if he's got sihr from that person who's doing the ta'weed he saw in the vision. And then the person starts reacting. So, yeah, you're right. You've got sihr from him. I can't believe I got sihr from that person. You've got it, probably. You do the diagnosis yourself. And when they do it themselves as well, they get the same results. And then they're shocked. But when you get this information, you've got to keep it to yourself. It's like dreams. You don't go around telling people about these things. And you don't go, oh, so-and-so is a magician. He's a sahir. I know because I did ruqya that. Because you can't take this. You can't take this to the Islamic courts. It's not rejected. This is like dreams. You don't do this. So you keep that information to yourself. You can use it for yourself and use it for your friends and family like you use dreams. You know. So you can do that, but keep that to yourself. Number 13 here. This last point before the salah. Here is my advanced ruqya diagnosis talk I did about 6 years ago at Luton Islamic Center, which basically shows you how to work out who the sahir is and where the ta'weed is. And I've given you a link there. So I did that talk about 6 years ago. And in that talk, I told you how to work out who the sahir is, who's giving you the hasad, who's giving you the ayn. We don't need to talk to jinn. You just do the ruqya diagnosis. And you find out the talk is there. It's been there for about 6 years. Okay, I did that talk there, about 6 years ago. And you can find out where the ta'weed is and all of that. From just doing the ruqya diagnosis. In fact, you find out where it is exactly. And we've had patients, you find it. Where is it? And they find it's something like this sometimes. What is it? Prophet, it's this. And people get shocked. Is that the ta'weed? Yes, I'm reacting to this thing. I'm connected to this. Okay, you need to destroy that then. Or sometimes it could be a pen. Or sometimes when I brother in the video I talk about, it was 2 USB sticks, memory sticks. That's what it was in the video I talk about, how we found that. You see? There you go. Right, so what we'll do, we'll just leave it here. Inshallah ta'ala. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. So this video will continue, inshallah ta'ala, online without an audience, inshallah ta'ala. And you put